Alright, did that all work? Hey, so far so good. Is that the right? Yeah, that's it. Okay, cool. Alright, jeez. Maybe I should get rid of the spooky stuff around the screen for now. They're kind of in the way. Hold on. Alright, we'll just turn those off for now. Hello, Newton Burr. How you doing? Sup, chill? How's it going? Alright. So let's see what Ashes of Creation have in store for us this month, shall we? How's the volume? Volume can probably stand to be lowered just a smidge. There we go. Going pretty well, good to hear.
Welcome and salutations to our
Hello!
glorious Ashes of Creation community. Welcome to our
Damn, that's some nice fan art. Wait, hold on. What the fuck? It's actually kind of cool. What art style? Is that like... Oh, God, it almost looks like crayon. That's fucking cool. I like the style, too. I wonder how they did... What did they use? It doesn't look like... I mean, I'm no fucking expert, but I definitely know it's not watercolor, and I'm pretty fucking sure it's not oil. It kind of looks like crayon, and I'm into it. All right, let's go.
One is well and safe. Thank you for holding off with us.
What is
for
that?
those of you who
I don't know.
Out watching
Some
live,
kind of deep
we had
sea
a little
creature.
Delay. As you can see,
that's pretty
Steven
good
is
too.
coming to us from his phone.
Let's see if we can spot any AIR. Oh my God, he's got a map
guys.
on his back.
I
never get lost again.
I was not expecting to be in Vegas, and I had something last minute as an emergency pop up, and I had to come here.
I don't know what it has to do with Ashes of Creation, but that looks great.
1:30 in the morning, and I was supposed to have the computer all set up, and then the Ethernet cable was broken. I sent
Is he on his
grab
phone?
another Ethernet cable, and then the
I recognize vertical. All right, he's on his
lo
phone.
And behold, the computer doesn't have a built-in network adapter.
Stuff. I hate traveling. This is one of the reasons why.
It was just like a perfect storm.
Wait.
Of
did somebody cross-stitch one of the weird mandrake potato? That's cross-stitch. Holy shit, that looks amazing. What the fuck? Wow. It's almost like an exact... Holy shit. That is some good cross-stitching.
Terribleness, and I am so sorry for
is
the
that
delay.
Potato? I
appreciate you guys understanding, and we're going to have a fun stream regardless. Hopefully you can hear me okay, and it's not too bad.
You're good.
I'm connecting with my iPad.
Oh, it's an iPad. Okay.
Doing the stream
Fair
from
enough.
an iPad.
Potato with legs, hell yeah.
30 minutes of this stream is
it reminds me of
video,
Mandrakes, kind of, from Final Fantasy 11. Was it 11?
Okay.
11.
And as you can see, we're going to...
The first online
You can
one.
see our topics right there for how we're going to be doing
the
things.
one I
so
played.
today we're going to be doing our quick reminders. We'll do our basic ranged attack update. I do have more reminders than normal today. And then also we have our character art update and studio update. And then, of course, we have a lovely Q&A from the questions that we pulled from our forum. So if you submitted form questions, we have got some of those prepared. So with that, we'll quickly get through the updates.
Is that a pangolin? That's
First
pretty cool.
Foremost,
I like pangolins.
We have
They're
our
disgusting
question from YouTube. So how we do this is if...
Is that the same person? Looks like the same art style. What do they do for that? Damn it, why are none of our artists in chat right now? I have to understand. God, it looks good. I really like that style. I need to find out what's... Hold on, I gotta snip a shot of this. I need to understand what this style is. Like, what was used to make this? How the fuck do I take a... Windows... There we go, Windows screenshot. Let me just... let's go ahead and grab that. Okay, I will... What the hell's Discord? Artsy stuff. There's an extra Y in there. God damn it. Alright, fair enough.
If you are a YouTube subscriber, you have the ability to leave a comment. Well, everyone does, but as a YouTube subscriber,
is that more cross-stitch? That's pretty good too.
Spotlight it. So all you have to do is subscribe to us over on our YouTube channel. If you're watching,
I actually know how to cross-stitch. I haven't done it in a long time. I kind of like it though. It's kind of cathartic.
You could have your comment selected as well for the next one.
That's kind of that's like
this
fluffy.
one was from our lovely friend Mindful K9, which said, "I love MMORPGs for their size and world building. The social aspect is cool, but I prefer random adventures coming together because we all need to work together to get through this event or area."
See, I play them for the social aspect. I like hanging out with people and doing shit with people on a big scale.
So, what will be any benefits for those who want a little more solo gameplay?
Single player games by myself.
Kind of asking,
like I never play single player games outside of stream.
Want to solo as well,
not because they're not good, just because I would rather be playing with somebody.
But
sure, that's it.
So streaming's always been my excuse for that. Like, oh, I'm playing a single player game. It's a solo game, but I'm playing it with you guys, so I'm socializing.
That's a good question. I mean, the MMO landscape is, of course, filled with players who want to engage, excuse me, with finding new friends. At the same time, a lot of people come into MMOs with a group of friends that are already existing. And so you want to be able to provide avenues to both socially connect other players by creating challenges that require group efforts in order
so that's things like raiding, challenge modes, and dungeons. That's always going to be a part
of the MMO landscape, whether you're a solo player or not. MMOs,
although I would argue world bosses, while they kind of hit this, you don't really need to coordinate usually that much. Like Guild Wars 2, for example, they have world bosses. More often than not, you just show up, you fucking pound it out. If you show up early enough, maybe you chit-chat a bit with people who also showed up early. They add in some occasionally where there's some coordination required, but usually power creep through the game eventually just makes it so you don't need to coordinate even on those bosses anymore. So basically, you've got raiding, you've got challenge modes in dungeons or mythic or whatever the hell people call it these days, stuff like that. Okay.
Are massively multiplayer. So that means it's not a solo game. We're not creating a solo game, but it doesn't mean that we don't offer gameplay that is solo-centric as well.
I mean, that's fair.
In addition to the social aspect of what MMOs
things like
provide.
going out and doing some good old-fashioned gathering and crafting.
To give that element of gameplay is we have quest lines that are devoted towards solo players.
Questing and leveling up should generally be fairly soloable.
Obviously, one of the benefits of being a solo player is you get to keep everything that drops, right? You don't have to share loot with a party or with friends. That's one benefit of being a solo player.
A game that's done that differently, having to group just to level up was, I mentioned earlier, Final Fantasy 11. I'm pretty sure it was 11. Yeah, Final Fantasy 11. After about level 10, you could no longer solo anything, not even the level up process. You had to form groups to level up, or you could not fight anything. You just get your ass kicked. The game was designed specifically to always have a party, pretty much, after, was it level 8? Level 8 or 10? When you get to the second zone, basically. The first zone is mostly soloable, right up till the end it starts getting a little tricky. And then the second zone, you really need a group at that point. So, I've been through that, I've experienced that, I've experienced standard, soloable, pretty easygoing leveling, and New World actually struck an interesting balance where you can do a lot of the game solo, you're leveling, but you can also jump in with a group of people and do the elite areas as well, which can actually speed up your leveling and get you some neat trinkets and stuff. So I really think New World did that really well, and that you can just fucking get through the game solo if you want, level your way up, or maybe you want to socialize for a little bit. You're tired of grinding out all the quest circuits and shit on your own. You've hit too many trees today. You jump into a group, do the elite areas. You still get pretty good levels. You get good resources. It's great. New World actually struck a really nice balance with that, having the elite areas and regular solo leveling. So, it's something it'd be nice. Have the option, go a little this way, a little that way. Flexibility is nice.
But, it's going to be more difficult to overcome challenges. And those individuals who are up to taking that...
Because always having to group just to level up can get really...
are going to excel perhaps
annoying
in their character progression a bit faster
Which
than
is
those who
Final
are more
Fantasy XI's biggest problem, because
it's
alts were
going
a
to be a little bit
nightmare.
of a roll of the dice there, because there are loot tables, there are reward tables that accompany that. But it's important to note that from a content perspective, Ashes of Creation is looking to fulfill both that solo-oriented mind in gameplay, as well as the group and social experience. And a lot of times those paths diverge. They move apart, they come back together. And that kind of process is going to be seen throughout the leveling in Ashes of Creation, where you'll have more opportunities for solo gameplay and some opportunities for group gameplay. And for those solo players who don't really care about finding a community to play with, but they want to have one when they need it, there's going to be a lot of opportunities from a dialogue perspective, in-game chat options. You can join as part of citizenships. There's a lot of pseudo-factions there. Social organizations that give you an in to other players without the strong bonds that typically come with guild-oriented organizations, right? And I think that's a comfortable medium between the two.
Right.
Okay, he did. So, one thing I want to comment on here, well, two actually, into his whole solo thing. So, one thing that can help with solo gameplay is, like I said, resource gathering and crafting. Those are generally best done solo, for the most part, unless you need some super special ingredient, like raid tier legendary shit. Then, it's fun to have a group, to get that special resource, but that's usually a one-off thing here and there. But for, like, standard crafting and gathering, one thing you can do to make that a generally enjoyable solo experience is, A, have it be satisfying. That's one thing New World did really well, is their audio, particularly when harvesting, makes it very satisfying to harvest something. Especially mining. Mining especially. Oh, when you get that cracking echo through the environment, god damn, that is delicious. But another thing is making the world itself interesting. Like, sometimes it's fun in MMO, just get out and see the world. I've been doing that in Guild Wars 2 lately with the legendary trinkets and stuff, because they involve going to old zones you may not have gone to in a while, spending a couple days there, a day or two, doing all the shit in the zone, exploring it, getting, doing some achievements, some story stuff. And it's just, honestly, it's been refreshing just getting back out into the fucking world and exploring around. And it's very different than just sitting in town or in whatever your fucking sanctuary is or whatever, waiting for groups to pop for shit. So, making the world interesting to explore and having stuff to do around the world while you're, like, out harvesting and stuff, like little events that pop up here and there, that helps. That goes a long way towards the solo experience as well.
Victim of the scuff.
Getting into politics.
Would be getting into poetics.
Poetics? Am I into poetics? I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. I'm running for office. I will be the next... the last president. I mean, if I ever make it into the presidential office, it will be the end, so. How you doing, comrade? Appreciate the 39. I have a good shaman class outside of WoW. I don't know if this game will have something similar, as I don't remember if they have classes or just custom gameplay style. They use the Guild Wars 1 style of Class A, Class B merge 'em. So, they kind of fall into the Guild Wars 1 category there. I don't know if they'll have a good shaman class yet. Hard to say. They haven't really revealed a lot about the classes so far, other than some names and icons and stuff. It's possible. What other game has had a good shaman? So, Rift, as much of a meme as it may be, I mean, it was pretty good when it first came out. It had its issues. But Rift actually had a good shaman-esque class. Rift was also a game where you took Class A, Class B. Although Rift went a little further and it was Class A, Class B, and Class C. You could mix 3 classes into one. But you could make a pretty solid druid in that game. Or, not druid, shaman, because I did. That was one of the... I also played a bard character as well. But anyway. So what's new with AOC? It's what we're going through right now, but I keep pausing to talk about it. The other thing I wanted to mention that he didn't mention, though... to finish that thought about resource gathering and crafting being satisfying solo content, is making it interesting to get around the world. Because getting to the nodes and the resources, like if you make it interesting, Guild Wars 2 again as an example, the mounts in Guild Wars 2 are very interesting to use. They're all very unique from each other, and they make navigating the terrain interesting. Not to use the same word too many times, but getting around in Guild Wars 2 is content in and of itself because of how well their mounts are designed. So if getting around the world is intrinsically interesting in its own right, that also helps, like resource gathering and crafting being an interesting solo activity. Weird shift in AOC policy. Oh, that's why. Okay, I see. Got it. AOC has become a gamer. Honestly, should probably do better as a gamer. Oh, God. But anyway, as to what he was saying more recently, one thing I really hope Ashes of Creation has that more games are realizing is valuable, but they're realizing after they release and they have to add it in, and sometimes it's a little janky when it's added in after, is an LFG system. And I don't mean automatically form the parties, automatically teleport you to the dungeon, not World of Warcraft's automated system. Not that. I'm talking like an actual LFG where you just find people to do shit with. Not spamming chat, not looking for group chat, but like an actual UI element that will help you form parties. Guild Wars 2 did it. They had to add it in afterwards. They realized, oh shit, this is actually kind of valuable. And Guild Wars 2's version is a little janky, because it did have to be added in with the systems in place already. So, Guild Wars 2 is a little janky, it gets the job done, and it's certainly better than not having it. What's another good example? New World put one in recently. They did not have one in at launch, and people were like, fuck this, give us an LFG. So they're like, all right, here you can have it. And it works well. LFGs are good. They help you kind of focus in on what you want to do and find people for it in a reasonable manner. So, it doesn't have to be automated. I'm not asking for automation, because that can get kind of detached. But just a system or a tool to help people find each other to do something specific, like punch their microphones. That's huge, and I really, really, really hope Ashes of Creation does it, because every game that doesn't ends up realizing it's a mistake and trying to shoehorn it in later. Design the game with it in mind from the get-go, please. That's all I'm asking for.
And one of the other reminders is that Stephen will be doing an AMA
across a continent without a mount. This game does have mounts, thankfully.
So if you follow us on all of our social channels, we will let you know whenever that is happening.
Anything better than the classic WoW system, just go to the physical entrance of the dungeon and try to form a party with whoever else is there. That's what New World was when it first launched. That was basically how you did it in New World. It's terrible, yes.
That will be scheduled for October 12th, 2020.
The upside is, with New World, is the world is relatively small, so getting to these places wasn't that horrible. But you get there and it's like, fuck, nobody's here. Guild Wars 2 was like that when it first launched as well. You would have to go to the dungeon entrance. That one was even easier, though, because there's usually a waypoint right next to it. You just go to it. But if there was nobody out there spamming for it, it was like, well, fuck, how am I going to find a party? So you would just have groups of people spamming shit right outside of the dungeon, and honestly, the LFG was way better now that they've added it. Much better experience overall. Just hitting leg day as a dwarf. Just wait until climbing starts, you know? War. So this is their pre-order thing. If you pre-order, they give you, a little content pack as a thank you or whatever. It changes every month, I think. So this is this month's, or last month's? I don't know. Whatever. This is one of the month's content stuff. You get some skins, basically. And they're exclusive skins. So once that month has passed, they will never be released again. Which is just code for we will never release them in this exact color with this exact detail set. They will re-release this set at some inevitable point in a different color with slightly different details. Every game does it. Every game that has a system like this eventually just reuses the asset slightly different so other people can get it. But you still have your more unique version of it that nobody else can get. But it's way too many wasted assets not to reuse them at some point down the line. Like, they're going to get reused. That's a lot of wasted work otherwise. Really weird for no reason. So you get different stuff depending on when you pre-order. Yeah, basically. This is basically their version of kickstarting the game. Like, they didn't actually want to do... Did they ever do a Kickstarter? I don't remember if they ever actually, kickstarted the game. But this is their way of doing, a continuous money drip via, essentially, crowdfunding. So, they want to offer new shit for people, and the people who are rolling in down can probably do it on multiple months anytime they see a set they like. Like I said, most of this shit will probably eventually get reused, just because it's a lot of wasted assets otherwise. But, yeah. This is this month's pack. You get whatever the fuck these keys are. You get a harpoon skin, armor mount skin. I don't know if this is like a mini pet or something, or I don't know what this is. You get like a housing style, your caravan style, whatever the hell the stopwatch is, and you get some currency. So this is this month's version of that.
At 11
Do I have to
a.m.
cancel and
Pacific, so if you'd
re-pre-order?
like
What if I
these
pre-ordered
head on
last
over,
month? But I
we
want
always
this
let
month's
you know
stuff
when
instead.
they're gonna
No,
swap
you
over
can
on
pre-order
our
multiple
articles as well.
months if
And
you
reminder
want.
that all of these
It's basically
variants
like the
are all
cash
variants
shop's
made
just
from these
open
sets
early,
you'll see in game as
essentially.
NPCs,
And you get a
creatures,
good deal on a
buildings,
bundle,
and things of that sort. So
effectively.
that's the exciting part. You're coming along with us on
But,
the journey.
like, chat, I don't recommend going in on this, like, this kind of thing. Like, as much hope as I have for Ashes of Creation and how good I think it's probably going to be, I still do not. Unless you have more fucking money than brains, I do not recommend going in on this kind of thing. Like, don't do it. Never pre-order a game. Never, ever, ever pre-order a game. Unless it's like the 3 days before the game comes out and they're still offering it. And it looks like the game's going to be good and you're going to buy it anyway at that point. Then fine, whatever. But this game is years away. Do not pre-order this game. Like, anything could happen between now and then. Like, the company could be, like, their headquarters could be hit by a freak meteor and everything's just done. There's no more game. Nothing. Or the game could radically shift directions, or any number of things. Do not ever pre-order so far in advance, no matter what they offer. It's not a good idea. Don't do it. It's a terrible idea. I pre-order on Steam because Steam refunds are easy, and the timer doesn't start on it until the game comes out. Well, that's fair enough. I don't know if Ashes of Creation will be on Steam. I assume so, because they need to hit a good market saturation, but who knows. But anyway, yeah, that's one of their pre-order packs.
I am really excited to do the AMA.
I don't really care for this one. It's too spiky.
That's an Ask Me Anything. It is typically done on Reddit, but we also take questions. Our top voted questions we'll probably take from forums as well. So it's going to be a combination of our Reddit.
Our laptop's stolen with the only source code.
We're going to be putting out more information about that in the coming weeks leading up to the date. But if you
we'll discuss how that's going to
Was that a harpoon gun?
Exactly.
Yes. There will be naval content in this game.
Reddit, make sure to go
including
there, to get prep, make an account,
hopefully
so you can ask your questions that
some
you
kind of
ask.
deep sea hunting, maybe.
Yep. And then we also have
and a good fishing
our
system
den
would be
discussion
nice.
that is up, and I know a lot of people have been leaving feedback. This one is for our gathering and PvP, and specifically we ask you, are the gatherers
it's just
will
a
be
one
prime
drop of
targets
blood.
for combatant players, or they sometimes will be. With that said, what tools or activities would gatherers like to see to help protect their well-earned materials while out in the field? So definitely go give us your feedback on that, and we will have another dev discussion coming up about materials.
To be fair, Project
So if that
Zomboid
is
still
something
turned
that
out
you're
pretty good.
interested
Yeah,
in,
it's not too
definitely
bad.
do so. And of course,
It gets a little repetitive
event system
pretty quickly,
follow-up.
especially
so a
with
lot
the
of you
constant
gave
death
us feedback
thing,
on
but
the event system, and now we have a follow-up question for you.
I think that's
there.
Zomboid's biggest
Head on
issue.
over
It
to
doesn't have a
forums
strong enough
and
gameplay
you can
loop
answer
yet.
some of the questions that we had on that front. And of course, last but not least, if you are a content creator, we always get these questions in regards to when we're going to
Hopefully
have
you can
a
do like
content creator
whale
program, or
hunting
how we're
with
allowing
harpoons.
content
That'd be
creators to
kind of
join
cool.
us. You can head on over to
I signed up for
content
this. They
creator
are not
program
going to
and
accept my
fill
tiny
out the
ass.
application.
But I am signed
we are
up
currently
for
in
it.
application phase. Once we
We'll
switch
see.
over to invitation phase, we will let you all know, and we will be closing the application phase for a short bit of time while we reach out to everybody.
You do love naval
a
content.
lot of people.
Boating is
so,
fun. Like
we appreciate all
they
of
made
you
an
guys,
entire
and
game out
again,
of it almost.
This is not a creator
And
program
the worst
that
part
is based on
of that
numbers.
game,
We're not just being like only people with 1 million followers.
now
can
we'll
join
fucking
us.
see about that now,
we
won't
want
we?
Small creators, big
We'll
creators,
see.
creators who do
But
all kinds of
like they made a whole game out of naval content, and the biggest criticism people have of that game is that they want more naval content. Sea of Thieves. Like, people love that fucking game. It's great. The downside is when you have to get off your boat and go do, like, digging shit. Like, that's the worst part of the game, is when you're not on the boat. People love naval combat stuff. Like, naval combat, naval exploration, just operating a ship can be exciting and fun and interesting. Like, some of the most fun I've had in Sea of Thieves is when Dan and I spent an hour and a half trying to outrun another ship. Navigating based on the wind, navigating based on their position, trying to use the islands and terrain to shake them. It took an hour and a half. They ultimately ended up, well, it got to the point where we were like, all right, we can't lose them. They're too good. We almost lost them at one point in a fog bank, but it's not working. So we stopped and fought them. We ended up winning, but their fucking respawn points were way closer, so they actually got back and got most of the loot. But we did find the island they were trying to offload the loot on, and while they did have most of it offloaded and sold out by the time we got there, we did kill them again, and we got what was left over. So we probably only got about 25% of the haul overall, but it was exciting. Like, just running from another ship was exciting. People love naval stuff. If it's implemented well, and it's got good mechanics behind it, people love that stuff. It's fun. And if you add more to do, like whale hunting, yeah, it's frowned upon in the real world. Fuck the real world. This is a video game. Who gives a shit? Give me a whale hunt. I want to hunt a goddamn whale. Or like a sea monster or something. Like the Kraken. Anything. Give me stuff to do on a boat. Shout out to AC4. Still the best pirate game ever. Yeah, see, yeah. Like, AC4, the Black Flag is like the most popular Assassin's Creed game by far. It's not even close. And why? Because people enjoyed playing on the boats. They didn't even give a shit about the Assassin's Creed stuff. They liked it because of the boats. Turning 10 this month, that's sad. Sad because I'm old. All right.
Different types of things, whether you're a video creator or a cosplayer or whatever it is.
Diving for treasure's good too. Like, there's so much you can do with naval content, and it's so fun.
It's more going to be about
it creates an interesting loop, especially this game's already got it. Naval combat. The oceans are the free combat zones. Like, if you're out in the ocean, pirates are a threat.
Preemptive details before we play our video.
Absolutely.
So they've already got that figured
out. So I want to preface this video, and ironically enough, I did not actually I know in the past I've double prefaced. I preface on stream, and then you hear the same preface in the video, so I didn't preface it in the video either, which I guess I probably should.
Is he prefacing his preface? He's prefacing his preface.
It is
we're prefacing now
to our ranged excuse me, combat excuse me, and as is always, remember in
you want to find a Kraken? Finding the Kraken was hilarious.
Work up towards
in
our
Sea of
Alpha
Thieves.
2. So with that in mind, it is not finished.
Okay.
There is
of course,
still
obviously.
much more that needs to be done, both from a visual effects perspective, from targeting and UI, from the just general look and feel of movement and impact. However,
I did comment on that with their melee video, so it's good to hear they're still working on that stuff.
Alpha 1 test last year, and you know, something that's really important is you guys, and I've said this in the past many times, is feedback is important, but making sure you contextualize the feedback in the things that you enjoy about what you saw, as well as the things that you would look to see improvements from based on experiences and things you've enjoyed in the past from other games and their ranged combat. So in this video, we take a look just to set expectations. We look at two different types of ranged weapons. We look at a longbow and we look at a short bow. And both of them have very unique of feel, of style. One is less impactful on movement, the short bow. The other one is more impactful, but it packs a harder hit on the longbow side. It's also a first look that you guys have had at the Ranger archetype. And of course, we don't reveal.
So it kind of makes sense. Longbows were typically a lot more stationary. They were usually backline, whereas short bows would be like mounted cavalry or really moving through the battle,
right? That
more or
is
less.
Mobility and survivability.
So that makes sense.
Heavy damage from a
or
distance.
I guess scouting
it is the ability
or something. I don't know. Anyway, so that makes sense.
Root. So you get to see some of those things. You also get to see an element of enemy faction, NPC enemy faction.
Okay, that's good.
That we fight against.
Feedback is important if the devs listen to feedback and aren't afraid of criticism. Seems to be aware of what you've seen. Yeah, no, they take feedback pretty well.
The Minotaurs. You get to see some of the Minotaur faction. Their trusty side hounds.
So we've seen like elementals so far,
and you get to see it in an environment that you guys haven't seen before, which is this foresty area in the Riverlands that lead up to a major point of interest called the wreckage of Carfin or Carfin Tower. And that is a big vertical dungeon that exists within Alpha 2. And it has some significant story.
I wonder how they're going to do their dungeons.
That you're going to see a little bit of updates to
Are they going to be
the
instanced?
Are
they going to be like
Jeff,
Ultima Online back in the day where anyone can go in
Natalie,
and everyone's just fighting for tags and shit?
Incredible job,
killing each other, stealing each other's loot,
and helping to create our new style guide for
I kind of like
what the UI is going.
I kind of like dungeons as more of instance content because I feel like there's a significant value to having more scripted content as well. Like, I feel like the strongest MMO is a mix of Sand Park and Theme Park. Or Sand Park, as I think is the colloquial term is now. Sand Parks just win, because they got a little bit of everything. And I feel like having a really good structured content can really help with the overall feel. Like, sometimes you're just... Like, I log in and I'm like, I just want to hang out with some people. I just want to, I want to turn my brain off and just do something. I want to experience something, you know? I'll do some dungeons. And, like, games like WildStar, for example. WildStar has had the single best dungeons I've ever experienced in a video game, in an MMO. Like, WildStar's dungeons were phenomenally done. Like, they were an experience, and I really liked them. It's a damn shame the rest of the game didn't pan out so well. And that the dev team just, like, instantly gave up on the game when it wasn't a hit success. Part of that was probably pressure from NCSoft, but it's a shame, because that game could have been fixed up really nicely.
Don't look behind you.
Yeah, doing dungeons in WildStar was a phenomenal experience from the ground up. Like, the whole thing was amazing. Now, you combine that with sandbox content in the outside, you just get the best of everything. New World has also got pretty good dungeons, too. Like, most of their dungeons are also pretty phenomenal. So, like, really good dungeon content can really help an otherwise sandbox game out a lot. Raids, too. I don't do raids a lot because I don't have a social group large enough in MMOs usually, but like I still like the idea of them. I still like watching other people do them, and I still think they're a good addition to a game. Not like massive 40-man raids, but like 10-man raids, for example.
To look like in Alpha 2, you get to see a little
appreciate the gift sub there, Chill.
That with some of the HUD and some of the journal systems. But remember, it's important to give feedback here in Twitch, on the forums, on Reddit, everywhere possible. Tell us 2 points, right? What you liked about what you saw and what you would look to improve based on experiences you have in the past. And
they get ridiculous. They can be a bit tedious, especially like the setup
we'll see you when
of them all
return.
and everything. Hang on, we're having a little bit of a bitrate hiccup here. Let me see if it passes. It's causing a lot of buffering. We'll give it a second. So what are your guys' thoughts so far? They haven't talked about too much yet, but of what they've spoken of. Particularly in their idea of solo versus multiplayer content, and kind of balancing the two and how they mix and match. So I guess kind of into the point of mixing and matching, it kind of goes to what I said earlier about, you know, having stuff to do in the world while you're going around harvesting, like a random event popping up, because that's something you're typically going to join in with other people. Maybe it's only 2 or 3 people who also stumble across it. Maybe it's the whole zone converging on that point. But you're just down kind of doing your own thing solo, collecting your resources, and then suddenly you're participating in this group event. So it's kind of, like he said, you're kind of merging in, separating out. So, again, that's something that happens a lot in Guild Wars 2, which is cool, and I think it's generally a good design. It works well. Coordination for them is going to be hard, and you find that once the fighting starts, the haphazard plan usually just gets tossed out a window. Well, that's the difference between a really good raid group and a not-so-good raid group, is the plan doesn't fall apart in a really good one. Whereas you have to have backup plan B, C, D, Q, W, Z for like a really casual group. You know? Alright. I think it's chilled down a bit. It's not buffering as much. Bitrate's plummeted, but that's alright. We'll make do. Alright. Back into the fray. Okay, so basic ranged weapon attack update. Here we go.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another live stream day with an awesome showcase of our basic ranged combat revamp. Excited to be here again, showing you guys Ashes of Creation.
You might want to refresh, though, because that probably created a minute or so delay. So if you're here, refresh. Let me go ahead and refresh myself here. Generally advisable. And that will get you back on schedule with the rest of the stream. Okay. That Stoneward graphic looks good. Yeah, no, I mean, they're using Unreal Engine 5, so graphics, textures, all that should be bang out. It should be pretty good. There shouldn't be any major issues there. Hopefully, anyway. But yeah, I mean, if you look, like, the trees are interesting. They look good. A little far away, so hard to tell for sure, but the stone textures are pretty good. They actually showed a sculpture, like a desert statue, that they were actually showing the process of creating the texture and everything for it. We're here to discuss the new updates to all of Canada. Yes. Canada's a little crazy out there right now. With what all the moose uprising and everything. Come on, Bitrate, you can do it. I believe in you. I believe in the you that can believe in you, that you can do it. So I got the new cable coming. It arrives Wednesday. Hopefully, when I slap that on the wall, that should fix up the problem with the bitrate and everything. That's my hope. It's copium at this point, because it's probably not going to be it, but it's something that needs done anyway, so might as well do it. No idea what Ashes of Creation. It's an MMO coming out in a couple of years. They do monthly dev updates, and I like to keep up to date with it. See what's going on. It's the Congresswoman. It was that too, I guess. Alright.
And its
so to preface, because, you know, to add another preface to the prefacing, just so we're you know, cohesive with the meme, this is their basic range attack update, as you can read right down here. So we've seen their basic melee. That was 2 months ago? Yeah. Now they're showing us what the range combat, in its iteration right now, it will be built upon and tweaked based on feedback and improved upon over time, but right now, this is what they've got. I hear people are really happy about this video in the AOC community, so I'm hoping it's we'll see, I guess.
Progress towards Alpha 2. I have joining
Age of
me
Conan.
today two
that's another
stellar senior designers on our team. Senior designer Trad and Jeremy. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing well. Just looking forward to showing some of the stuff we've been working on.
What the fuck?
Oh, I know. It's always exciting.
I got
Jeremy,
even
how you
worse.
doing, buddy?
Okay.
Doing
Understood.
really good. Good.
That
I'm
is
excited to be here. Really excited to show the stuff we've got this time.
Yes.
Combat animation, cool. Yeah. So basic combat.
My first awe is, of course, the world. Just the
world
unbelievably
so far.
beautiful environments that the environment team and the design team have just come up with these ruins and this forest. I mean, where are we at right now, Jeremy?
We are in the Riverlands, which was the former heart of the Aelan Empire.
Ooh.
So we're among their ruins from
We've actually seen some of the Riverlands before. I believe they were
people saw
demoing
some
the
of these
Riverlands
things
for the weather update.
The weather and seasons showcase. So you guys might recognize this stuff, but the Aelan Empire, that was one of the largest, if not the largest empire at the time of the apocalypse, right?
The
right,
apocalypse,
it was at the height of their golden age when the
so this is basically post-apocalyptic.
The fall happened,
but,
so we are just standing in their ruins now.
And it is
not
high
tech to low tech, kind of low tech to low tech,
where you have these ancient,
which is interesting.
almost artifacts and just locations that you get to explore. It's
and
really compelling.
Big goal, is to make a living, breathing world that's an actual character of our game. Vera should very much feel like a character.
It might have been higher so magic to lower magic
behind
though.
It. They're like great fantasy worlds of the past.
Wait.
Vera should very much feel like one of those that.
They put cutouts for the elf ears. At first I thought it was clipping, but I don't think that's actually clipping. It looks too intentional. I think they actually put a cutout in the hood for the elf's ears. So they do something like that for the Asura in Guild Wars 2, where if you have boots, they will there's cutouts in the boots for their they have these weird like fucking talon feet, like they protrude out the side. They actually have cutouts in boots for Asura too. It's always hilarious. And some outfits on the Char, the big cat people, they some armor has tail cutouts for them. It's always amusing.
Just hearing the name invokes all kinds of history.
Imagine putting your hood on and having to pull your ears out through the holes. And some people have to do that in real life.
That's been in trouble for a long time now, and the players are coming back to help rescue and recover that.
I love it. And I also love the fact that Chris Atkins threw in some slits for this elf's ears to come through.
Okay,
yeah. Oh my gosh,
so
it
was intentional. It's not clipping.
I feel a lot comfortable.
they're a little rough, like somebody like just took a knife and quickly cut him in. Like it's repurposed gear. It wasn't made for the elf. Because they do look like kind of rough cuts. Very cool. But it's a nice touch.
You were mentioning we are in an area that is relatively dangerous, right? This is
their ears warm?
These aren't elite monsters, right? But they are.
My guess is it's kind of like when you put those on-ear headphones on and your ears just kind of start chafing and getting tired and sore after a while. I assume it's probably similar, because the hood's going to kind of bend your ears in a bit and it's going to apply pressure and it's just going to get chafy and uncomfortable after a while. I'm sure they got like muffs that they can put over their ears, like a little special little ear muffs, maybe when it gets cold out. And ear mitten, yeah.
Still deadly.
These looks like a Minotaur hunting party, war party that are investigating this area for some reason. It looks like some
gloves with finger holes.
Have
basically
down to this Riverland area.
Yeah,
and they're checking things out.
And they have some like guard dogs with them.
So the reason some gloves have holes for the fingers is so that you have more fine dexterity.
Reptilian dog.
It protects your palm and the bottom half of your fingers and whatnot.
Looking around for things.
No. Oh, I'm walking.
Gives you better grip, but you still have the better dexterity in your fingertips.
Oh,
kind of the same for the ears. I assume their ears need to function properly. Like those big ears.
Chad, what should I do?
They catch a lot of noise. Like you got big ears like that, you're going to hear a lot. And you put the hood over, it's like muffling your hearing. It's like, fuck, now I can't. Like my hearing went down from like a mile and a half to half a mile. Like fuck, that's my advantage out here. No, fuck this. Cut some holes in. I need to hear. You had a world you made for D&D where the lore was there was a massive war hundreds of years ago, and mages cast spells that still leave large parts of the world uninhabitable. But it was actually an alt universe where World War II ended in nuclear war. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that's kind of a nice, a weird twist. There's been some TV shows that were kind of like that. There was one about a time machine. I think it was actually a movie, not a show. But it was like not medieval, but like Victorian era, slightly later Victorian era. Maybe late 1800s. Dude builds a time machine, goes around. He goes to the future first. The moon's, the moon's imploding. It's collapsing. There's a great calamity. And then he goes even further forward, and it's like, holy shit, these people are really primitive now. And they fight, and there's magic, and wow, crazy. But it all started from the moon, basically imploding. Can you hear why kids love the taste of Cinnamon Toast Crunch? This elf sure can.
Another
as long as they're not wearing their hood.
Of the scuff.
How you doing, Adverse? Sup, Raider? Appreciate the 34 months. Hey, Huron. That's wild and cool. But yeah, anyway, Guild Wars 2 and Riot kind of play with that. It's less twisty like World War 3 or 2 went bad and high technology went low technology. But like League of Legends, they had the big mage calamity element. It wasn't quite as catastrophic in that game. They kind of reined it in before it got, apocalyptic. But the other game, it did go full apocalypse. And you're just kind of the reemerging, Anyway, it's a neat idea to play around with.
Should I? What items or abilities?
How you doing?
Spam 2 on one of them. Take that guy.
Okay, so this is the volumetric lighting is nice there.
That was a quick
wow,
shot
that's
right
really
there.
nice, and the way the character kind of
quick shot.
Hold on, let me lower the volume of them just a smidge. Let me go back here a little. Where is it? Like right about there. Look at when he goes through the fog.
Chad, what should I do? What should I? What
Not
what
that
items
the lit up
abilities?
Fog. Here we go.
Spam 2 on one.
Look. Damn, that's nice.
Right,
that is
take
well
that guy
done.
down.
Oh my god, that looks great. Good volumetric lighting is amazing. Bad volumetric lighting is the worst thing in the world. Just ask Phasmophobia. Their volumetric lighting was some of the worst I've ever seen, and it was awful. It made the game insufferable, which is why you could turn it off, thankfully. But this is really good use of volumetric lighting. Like, this is fucking amazing. Look at this. Look at the way they're outside. Just, damn, that's good. God, Unreal Engine 5 is a great engine. Okay, so basic combat.
Right
do you have to aim it? I can't tell if they have to aim or if they're...
that adds 3 charges, and each shot does more damage than the last.
It looks like they're not aiming.
That you're attacking. So you can kind of use it as an opener, counter strike kind of ability.
Oh no!
Just to drop somebody.
So I have that 2 back again, the quick shot.
Yep.
Okay, so it looks like it's so this game's kind of a little bit of a mix like Guild Wars 2 combat, where some of the stuff is targeted, tab targeted, some of it isn't.
Oh god, I have 16 health. No,
kind of like that little bit of a hybrid system, which isn't the worst. I do these days definitely prefer like a full-on action system, but
how did I grab so many?
They're paying attention.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah, playing as a ranged player, you have to be aware of your surrounding.
I did not.
Be aware of your surroundings.
I was not aware of my surroundings. Okay, you guys may notice
so what we got
that
here?
I'm
magic.
not dying right now. And I would just like to comment that
God
the stream
mode.
would not be good if I died trying to fight these things.
That's fine, you're on games journalist mode. We get it.
That would be snipe.
So the animations...
Shot,
come on, zoom into the character a little. I want to see the animations.
Oh,
look at that fog bank. Oh, God, that's so good.
You gotta like use that at the right time, but you do
character design so far. Yeah. Like the enemy designs are really good. Those were some Minotaurs he was fighting. They look good.
The more damage it does.
Minotaurs and boars.
I need to get some of my
and
health
the
back.
animations so far on the enemy have all been pretty good.
Let me just say that
as he
whenever
was
we
sitting
do
there
these
casting his
recordings
spell,
and I am piloting, right?
Panic rolling is a constant in all action RPG. Yes, panic rolling is always
about how things are going to go.
That's my go-to strategy for beating games. Panic rolling.
Something happens and it just doesn't work. I don't know why.
Like
just visiting? No, it's not just visiting. It's something time.
No
I don't remember
plan
what
survives contact with the enemy. So I turned on this.
But it's like 2 races have developed. The overlanders, which are basically your standard humans, they're thriving again. And then it's the people who went underground. They're all kind of pale skinned. They're starting to warp and get kind of monstrous, and they're the villains. And the main dude's like this fucking weird ass magician kind of guy who's really pale skinned but still more or less looks humanoid. Whereas the others all look much more troglodyte. The dude's got his time machine. The time machine is stationary, like it only moves in the dimension of time. And it's an interesting, probably a decent B flick. Gears of War, well, honestly, not too far off, but no, not quite. He cheated. Immersion ruined.
Cheat code, which doesn't let me die if I fall below 1 hit point. So every time you see me drop to 1 hit point, know that I would have normally just died there, and you guys can.
All right, so the skills for the bow. This is a short bow, I think. So the skills for the short bow are pretty standard short bow stuff. You got a rapid fire. You got
Okay, so
like, nothing crazy here so
far. You guys are seeing
the animations.
Early morning here. On the
it looks good. Like the lighting's great.
And
the morning fog is great.
You'll see that there's a lot of weather effects that are happening right here. There's some
wind, some
pollen
fog,
because we're in the middle of spring, but it's also early morning, so we have this fog layer that's rolling through.
Blowing in the wind.
Of course, the aesthetics of Ashes of Creation
some bugs, some butterflies flapping around.
Game systems makes games fun, and the game environment and the aesthetics make it beautiful.
When animations look good, yeah.
So
no, their weather system is bang on. I did a video on that
Jeremy,
already.
talk to me a little bit about these Minotaurs.
I think it's even uploaded on YouTube right now. So
here?
if you haven't seen it,
so these Minotaurs,
head on over there and take a look.
Prior to the fall,
no, their weather
kind
systems are phenomenal in this
nomadic,
game.
Chaotic race. They're a race that really benefited when the player races.
Okay. The draw animation looks decent, a little wobbly, but
so they in the intervening time,
the arm wobble is decent, especially if you got a high draw weight bow that you're not used to using,
from other entities
or that just kind of maxes out your strength.
They've really got organized, got equipped, and they're kind of actually excited to see the players come back because they want some revenge.
Oh, good, so they're excited. So yeah, so we're like the first emergence from underground.
Histories and things that tell of these people that held them down and hunted them. And
so this isn't like a, 200 years after the Calamity, society is partially rebuilt. No, you're coming out raw.
I'm gonna cheat here again because I just want to go up to them
within decades of it happening.
At what these Minotaurs
of people starting
like
to be able to go back to the top world.
So the Terragor is one of those clan
no, I mean
tribes. This one's
everything looks good.
The Raincaller who has
the caster
essence that kind of evokes water. He has water.
Good attention to detail.
Water attacks and makes shields of water bubbles around them.
Okay,
this guy is amazing.
I know they look great.
Model work.
Eli's done an amazing job.
Their animations seem decent too so far.
And these are just a shaman. These are kind of the ones that are divine and
in depth. It's pretty in depth.
Connection there. There's much bigger ones, much
in depth enough that
like the
scope creep is kind of a little bit of a concern, but they've done pretty good about not scope creeping so far.
I'm looking over in the distance and I see this giant like tower structure.
Yeah, that's the Tower of Carfin under a curse
that's the dungeon.
Is causing a lot of problems for the area too.
This Minotaur is real chill.
Right.
Like this one's on the bud.
I think if we approach up
Raider would know.
We actually cross over.
The fabric animations aren't bad. A little stiff at times. Yeah. They're better than a lot of games, but they could certainly be improved. Like this is fine. Like I would not be upset with this as the fabric animation. It is a little stiff. I agree.
There we go. Yes.
But I guess it depends what the material is. If it's like a canvas material, the canvas material doesn't flow as much as like linen,
is in Alpha
or something
2,
like that.
Obviously.
So I guess it depends.
And Jeremy, tell us a little bit about the tower. And
generally speaking, if that's how the cloth animation wasn't released, it's still better than most MMOs. I'd take it. It's not bad. It's
what is it? What is
room for improvement, but it's pretty good where it is. Fine, but not amazing. Good enough fabric animation so far from Moobsy. Yeah, I would agree with that. If they wanted to improve it, I wouldn't complain. But if this is how it ends up being, it's honestly it's pretty good. It's good enough.
Things went bad
for sure
during the last days of the fall. They made some desperate measures in
They're talking about
really
the calamity,
awesome
the end of days
quest series.
God, I can't get over the fucking lighting interacting with the fog. It's so good.
Awesome.
God, I want to explore this fucking world. I just want to get out there and see what there is to see.
Intended for many groups to exist within and fight. Now, Trad, question. What type of weapon am I using? Thank you. What type of weapon am I using
bow,
here?
Isn't it?
This would be the longbow.
Oh, that is the longbow. Okay, surprising.
So you can kind of tell
like,
when you're shooting your basic attack that
the abilities felt
a bit slower, but have more power.
Well, I guess they did have that one where they kneeled down and did the charge shot. So okay, all right.
So good.
The triple shot is usually more short bow feeling, where you do that quick rapid fire. Rapid firing a longbow does not seem like a practical use of the longbow. But I've seen a lot of speed shooters using like short bows and stuff like that.
And hold the button
which
down.
feels like it makes more sense.
Playing around with this that we haven't
so this one, it impacts your movement a bit more. You're not going as crazy. You got to stand still a little more often for stuff. Okay, I mean standard longbow fare.
The button versus
nothing crazy or insane here so far.
Kind of like snipe. You can actually.
I'd say the one thing I notice is that there isn't a lot of skill shooting with the bow. Like so far, it all seems very select your target and you fire at your target automatically. I'm not seeing a lot of the action combat in the bow so far. We saw a little bit of it with the melee weapon. There was a bit more there. I don't know. We'll see.
Attacks, and instead of doing just
again, if it does end up using more hardline like the Guild Wars 2 system, it's not the worst. But it would be nice to have at least some like some ground targeting mixed in, something where you're not just AFK watching Netflix while you tap some buttons periodically. You know, something that involves more engagement in the combat. Dodging helps with that a lot, admittedly, and being able to avoid enemy attacks.
How are you just gonna sit here?
The birds just don't give a shit. They don't care. Those birds have the same testicular fortitude as.
Oh no. Okay, wait. What do you want me to do this weapon?
Shoot it.
Hold your Q button.
Hold the Q.
And charge up an attack.
Okay.
Houston, we might have.
You can hold the charge. That's good. That's at least some element of having to interact with the game a bit more. Okay. I'm not really big on charge mechanics personally. I really hate them in weapons, but a lot of people make good use out of them and like them, so fair enough. Not my style. I'd rather have things fire off when I want them to fire off. I mean, combat looks decent so far.
Hit you with those water bolts.
Oh, that's kind of cool. So I can jump while shooting this.
You can jump while shooting. That's nice. Okay. That doesn't do a whole lot, but you can navigate the environment while shooting a bit. So
nobody look at the health.
That can create some skill play, like being able to jump up onto a wall while shooting, take another shot as you jump off, and then laying behind cover safely.
That's really hardened
create some distraction maybe, or just utilizing the terrain to your advantage.
That's kind of cool.
So that allows a bit more of that, which is kind of neat.
I am now going to appropriately engage from the.
I think it's good. Again, that makes the game more interactive too, even if there isn't a lot of skill shooting.
Something cool about the longbow.
So it's a good idea. Good touch.
The birds are flying. Something cool about the longbow is that
use the codes.
As opposed to the short bow, you are able to actually hold and charge.
Shoot multiple arrows and longbows. Okay, well, fair enough.
Is that correct?
Yep.
And doing so, what does that do for the weapon user?
Truly rapid fire longbow? Truly rapid fire like they do it in game? No, I highly doubt it. Just because of the draw weight of a longbow, I just don't see that being practical.
Charging it up longer than you can set up some kind of status.
While maintaining any semblance of accuracy, I will say. It doesn't seem practical, which is why most speed shooters short bow.
So, for example, one thing you could do
with kind of middling to low draw weight.
And that will give you like a big spike of damage there at the end. So
that's cool.
Be charged individually.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
And achieved godhood.
And now
to be fair, as a GM, they are basically this world's version
of the Ranger archetype. Of course, we're not going to show everything that the Ranger has, but we are going to give you guys some ideas of the.
So this is one of their archetypes, and you can mix two classes together to create archetypes.
This is Snipe.
So I'm assuming Ranger is
this is Snipe.
Archer plus Archer,
this is the one I was talking about earlier.
Or Archer plus
it's kind of like the basic
Survivalist or something like that. You basically take two classes, merge them together into a new one.
That little flash there at the end that indicates
that
it's fully charged.
That's a strong ability.
Mix and match.
Yeah,
it creates like Warrior plus Warrior is what was it called last video? Warlord or something like that. Like it's very physical.
After a certain point, it stops.
Very in your face. It is the purest essence of Warrior. Big weapons, big hits, in your face. Feel the earth tremble beneath my might.
What happens? Let's get into
Warrior squared, exactly. Yeah, pretty much.
Creatures. See if I can.
A friend gifted me his obscene archive of files to print miniatures. It has 700 gigabytes of miniatures. Holy shit. It's a lot. But can I double Necromancer to create the unundead?
So now let's say,
you know what? Sky's the limit. Maybe. It's possible. There's actually a graph out there of all the intended classes and how they mix into archetypes. I wonder if we can find that. Hold on, let me see if I can find that quick. Let's see. Second tab here. Okay. Let's see. Can I find it? I've seen it before, but I don't know if it was official or. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Here it is. This is something anyway. Oh, where'd it go? There it is. All right, can I open that? Oh, well, that doesn't look as pretty, but I'll take it, I guess. Shit, where'd it go? All right, what do we got here? Oh, this is like skills. Okay, understood. Can I get like a blown up version of this? Can I get the big boy version of this picture? Because this is the one I was thinking of. Here we go. All right, so see, you got base classes: fighter, tank, rogue, ranger, mage, summoner, cleric, bard. So if you mix fighter and summoner, you get a blade collar, or you get a spell sword for the mage, or you get a, what is ranger? That's the Hawkeye. Delightful. Like rogue is the assassin, tank's guardian. Oh, weapon master, that's what it was, not warlord. Fighter is weapon master. Anyway, so these are kind of. Do we have a necromancer anywhere? Where's the necromancer? Conjurer, shaman. Nope, shaman. There is a shaman. It's cleric and summoner. Kind of makes sense for a shaman, sure. There is actually no necromancer. Oh, warlock. It's not really a necromancer, but I guess warlock can summon undead. There's some overlap there, maybe. Or maybe no, that's rogue summoner. Warlock might have necromancer stuff. We'll see. Anyway. That's it. These are the classes. This is how they all mix up. You got the Beastmaster, Summoner, Ranger. Classic, of course.
Does a lot of things. It moves the character in the direction that you're facing, and it rains.
Bard. Wait, what was the Bard anyway? Hold on. What was the Bard? The Minstrel, of course, a classic. I actually enjoyed playing Minstrel back in Lord of the Rings Online. It was a fun class. It was the main healer of the game too, so obviously they were important as well.
Damage, AoE, and also.
Holy, what the fuck? Oh, wait, hold on. What the fuck just happened? That was
really cool.
It was wild.
So let's say, for example, as the ranger,
was that the longbow?
These creatures, and this melee guy is on me, and I want to reposition.
Was that the longbow?
Tell me a little bit about what airstrike does.
Airstrike?
Airstrike does a lot of things.
Holy fuck, that's cool.
The direction that you're facing, and it rains 3 projectiles down.
And that's more of a skill shot, because you can presumably aim the direction of it. So that's what I like to see. I like to see some skillful use of skills. Like, it's more than just, because you got to think of your starting position, your ending position, what you're going to hit on the midway, what you want to hit. Like, there's an element of skill applied to this ability right here.
Yeah, that ability is so
fuck, that's good.
I love
Damn.
using it.
Look at that movement, too. It's a little slow, so it's not a practical movement skill. I wonder if you can go up elevation with it. Like, if you've got a wall there and you go high enough, and can you use it for world mobility?
I see it has a debuff that looks like the quick shot icon.
I like that. I like that a lot.
What's that doing?
Okay. All right. So there's some skillful play with the bow. Charge up skill, your movement skill there. Being able to jump and shoot.
Specific attack against.
And then, of course, dodge rolling, which everyone gets, I believe.
Kind of encourages
so, okay.
All 3 of your
there's a little more to the combat here than they were first showing off.
That does come at the cost of each charge comes back individually, so you either have to wait a longer period of time to get that burst.
Okay.
Or you can just.
Guild Wars 2 uses that for some of their skills, where you can get multi-charges stacked up, and you can chain use it, or you can just use it one at a time when it comes up. Fair enough. Yeah, okay. I mean, it works well enough for Guild Wars 2. I don't see why it wouldn't work here.
Tab target mode, which is a point and click with the cursor or using
and
tab.
There's with stacking uses like that. There's also a decision process that goes on into that. Like, okay, here's my burst window. Everything's up. Do I wait for my skills before I activate my burst window, or do I just go with it? Do I just flow into it? Do I want to use more skills now, or do I want to wait and get that bigger boom when my burst window's up? Like, there's decision making there with waiting for charges and stuff. I kind of like that. I think that's good.
On proximity priority, right? And into this reticle based mode, which now you can see the targeting
Maxstrel
in the top is slightly grayed out. And we do that to demonstrate that that is a soft lock target versus a hard lock target.
Okay. Got
and
it.
what a soft lock target is, Trad, do you want to explain a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah. So if you are in action mode and you don't have a target actually selected like you would in a tab target game, then it'll just smartly choose whatever target it thinks is the most appropriate for where your camera is. And
All right.
attack that
That
target.
usually doesn't work super well
But if
in a
you
lot
were
of
to
games, but
actually select a target,
functional
I think
enough.
Is it right mouse button in action mode?
Right. Right now, it's of
so the
course,
game
all
does
this
have
stuff
action
is
mode. So
customizable by the
presumably you
user,
don't have to
but
use
if you
that,
press
but you're
the-
probably at a
the
disadvantage
right
if you
mouse
don't.
button
So
in action mode, it will
action mode's
hard lock
cool,
the target, which
but
means you can
unless
take your
action mode
reticle
is the
off
default
target and it
and
won't
it's for
change
everyone, it
track.
doesn't matter. Like you'd be at a
Right.
disadvantage using it, so nobody's
awesome.
going to use it. Guild Wars 2 kind of has that where you can do the action mode. It's a really cool idea, and if the game were built around it, it would have been fantastic. But, like, nobody uses it because you're at a disadvantage to somebody who's just selecting a target and firing shit right at that target. Really cool idea, and I think it works really well, but
Yeah, we really
unless
wanted
that's just the way to do it,
showcase
nobody's going to do it. So this is
more
kind of a waste of
tab-based
development
combat
here.
because we in the last live
Unfortunately.
stream, all of our melee attacks were.
So hopefully they didn't
they
spend
were
too much
more
time working on
hitboxes,
that.
Right? They didn't acquire
Because it's
a
not going to
target.
matter.
Um,
Nobody's
and so we
touching it.
wanted to show a little bit more of that in this stream, and so right here, for example, like target.
I am all puns. That means it's bedtime. Glad you're enjoying the update show. Nighty night. Nighty night, Judy. Enjoy your rest.
More traditional type of game. But at the same time, we still have abilities like airstrike and other things that we haven't even shown yet that are going to be more action oriented.
More active, action oriented. Okay, so there's going to be skills that are more action oriented than what they're showing here. That's good to hear.
More fun. I've played Rangers in EQ, EQ2, the great archer types in Guild Wars and Hunters and WoW.
Guild War,
And
okay.
This mode with the reticle and stuff, it's just fun running around shooting these guys.
Sure, it's more fun,
it
but
is
it's not going to be
fun. I switched
competitive.
over to the short bow now.
So
let me
it's not going to be
see if I
used.
can show off that
It'll be,
short
it's
bow.
novel, it'll be fun here and there,
One
but
second.
like nobody's going to consistently use it because you're going to be at a disadvantage if you do.
Is it this mode?
So
There we go.
I almost kind of
So now I have a
well,
short bow
eh,
quick versus the
they didn't want to go full action with the game, which is
Excuse me,
understandable
versus
because
the
full
long
action
bow.
makes it less approachable by a wider audience.
And talk to
Guild
me a
Wars
little bit
2
about the
does well
difference
because
in
it's
the
got a
short
little
bow
bit of that
chat.
skill element to it, but it's still
Sure, yeah.
relatively
The direction that we went with the short bow was
lower.
a lot more
It's got that
almost
lower
wanna
or
say
higher skill floor, I'll
acrobatic.
say.
Like,
There's still a lot you can do with the
you can use
game,
this
and
a lot
seeing
more
somebody who's
freely.
really good at Guild Wars 2 versus somebody who
Slowly as much.
plays Guild
It's-
Wars 2,
it's a higher
like
rate
it
of fire.
functions in Guild Wars 2,
Basically, this
is riding the skill
this is the more
floor.
mobile
Like,
feeling, lightweight
it's amazing what
combat
somebody who's
versus
legitimately
the
just
longbow.
really fucking good at
So
the
it's not
game
quite as
can do
powerful,
versus what other
because you
people
are
can do.
You're making some trade-offs here.
So
with
there's still a lot of
range
room for skill expression
attack
in
speed,
and kind of a
I do
hybrid
think
system like this,
Right now, we're
but
actually putting a higher
very
crit
few
rate on
people are
this
gonna
one, so it's got
use the
burst
action
potential.
mode. Let's be
But
honest.
these are just the kinds of decisions that we want the players to be making when they're selecting their weapon of choice. What do I value?
I mean, I guess
the
one
movement
advantage to
back.
the
Yeah, I
action
think- I
mode
mean-
is you're still going to end up locking on. You're not going to use it for like true aiming. It's just not going to happen. But one advantage to the action mode that might make it usable and is just the ability to not have to worry about controlling your camera. Investing a finger or a button to camera control. Because you'll just always have active camera control. It'll just be as your mouse moves. So that might be a reason it gets used potentially. Depending on how well that works and how that interacts with certain skill types. Like in Guild Wars 2, you can technically do that with the action mode in there, but it doesn't interact super cleanly with using ground targeting skills. Like, it definitely makes your ground targeting skills more difficult to use, and you're much less precise with them. So while you do save on camera control, depending on your class, if you're a ground target heavy class, it's probably not worth it even then. But if you're a class that doesn't rely a lot on ground targets, then, saving on the camera control can be kind of nice. So, possibly. There's potential here, I will say, for this actually being worthwhile development time, depending on how things shake out.
It is a very
I
different
miss,
feeling,
what does action mode do?
right?
Action mode, okay, so the action mode, as you can see, you got a reticle, so you can just aim and target at the reticle with your skills and stuff if you want. It also has a soft lock mode, where if you're near a target, I don't know if soft lock can be turned on and off, or if it's always on, but there's a soft lock mode where if you're hovering, it'll kind of like aimbot you at it a little bit. It's a soft lock where if you get just a little too far away from it, it'll snap you off into free aim again. And it doesn't look like it's super hard that way if you need to fluidly switch targets. But if your camera, like your actual control point, is within the interaction box of the creature, it'll snap you to the middle of the creature. But it also remembers where your actual camera position is, so when you leave, it just cleanly snaps you away. And then, of course, there's hard locking, too, where you just aim at shit. When you use a skill, it goes right at them. So that's what their action mode is. But basically, it prevents you from having to hold a button down to swing your camera around your character. It is one of the big benefits.
One, I'm much more mobile, being able to shoot and not have
see
to
how they're kind of soft locked on it and whatnot. Yeah.
Like I had to.
Oh, this is hard lock actually. Never mind.
So just from that aspect alone, it feels like a very different weapon. I'm also not able to charge. I'm holding down the attack, and it's just firing a bunch. You'll see that I can blind.
Summon a horde of ravenous, angry mushrooms. Probably. Who doesn't love shrooms? Particularly aggressive shrooms.
Very different. And of course, it doesn't change the way you have access to your abilities. Your abilities are there regardless of the type of ranged weapon necessarily you're using, short bow or long bow. And then I don't have to have a hard target.
More like farming mode.
For the abilities
farming mode would not be having action mode off, because then you just tab target your way through and hit everything.
There's some feedback that we want.
So action mode would take more investment from the player than not.
Yeah, as always, every time we make an ability, we're pretty much always thinking about what is
more casual.
What is
casual tab targeting is definitely more casual farming, for sure, 100%. Looks like we're having bitrate issues, so you might need to refresh.
Being able to
maybe I don't know how bad it's gotten yet. I don't see any buffering on stream, so maybe it's fine.
Restricting movement, but at the same time,
okay,
we
they're going to show the short bow here too as well. So
makes it frustrating to attack and move at the same time. And a lot of people, what I think a lot of people love in MMOs is the feeling of agency and freedom in combat, and we want to retain that. So just as you see these abilities go off and get used in this environment, like I guess.
I mean, the animations look serviceable. They're not the best animations I've seen in a video game, but they're not bad. And they did mention they were still working on them and that they were going to improve and clean them up. So they're already at a decent spot. The ranged animations definitely feel better than the melee animations so far. So
is it too slow?
Okay, so they got climbing there, ambling over things. So that makes interacting with the environment a little easier. A little nicer. As long as it's clean.
Do people like? And keeping in mind these are
snaps well
solo ones right
reasonably.
now. These are tuned more for solo fighting. These aren't elite group mobs.
You can hold and charge your arrow shot to do more damage as well. Okay.
Yeah, I like in the
audio so
areas,
far is decent.
This for me, this speed feels pretty good, given that I'm a DPS class. And these guys are particularly susceptible to rangers because they are mage class NPCs. But
maybe I'm misunderstanding what you were saying, because it sounds like it's kind of like an auto targeting. Oh, the game is auto target by default. Like if you don't have action mode on, you tab target, like World of Warcraft.
Being able to
you got some skillful skills that you can utilize outside of the hard locking. But generally, if you're not in action mode, you're hard locked on your target, and it auto aims everything for you.
What is it about the game?
At least everything we've seen so far.
That you felt had good.
According to them, they have some more action style skills for classes and whatnot as well, but they've got a mix of just casual, it locks on, it homes, no big deal, and then it sounds like they're going to have more skillful skills as well. So action mode allows you to target without hard locking somebody. You can just shoot at your reticle instead. Or you can have the soft lock mode on, where you still have to generally aim in their direction and at them, but it will lock your shit on, so you don't have to be exactly precise.
Another thing that I think is
but if you move away from them, it'll unlock you from them. So the non-action mode is definitely going to be better for farming, because you just tab target and start firing your shit off. No problem. No aiming necessary. Nothing. You just hit tab, you target something, you press buttons, they die. That's going to be the farming mode for sure.
For sure.
I don't know how much skill expression the action mode is going to allow. If it allows a lot of skill expression, then it'll get used. If it doesn't allow any and it's just a detriment, like Guild Wars 2, it won't get used. So it's all going to depend. It's going to depend on how everything shakes out.
That we really want to capture in Ashes is
we'll see.
For the ability,
because Guild Wars 2 also, like I said, has this action mode, and nobody uses it. It doesn't get used, period, ever by anyone.
class choice, right? So
because you're just generally at a
I
disadvantage
can
using it.
spec into my short bow, or I can spec
because
my
the core
longbow.
game
Those
was
will
not
be two
designed
different-
around having it
very different
activated
builds.
and being competitive
For
at the
example,
same time.
the short bow,
As it was added later as a pet project for one of the
part of
devs.
its tree that specializes in applying bleeds, and bleeds might synergize with specific
Some mechanic where you might have to lead a target and auto aim might miss. Yeah, skill shots. Skill shots having
weapon choice will
free control, like ground targeted or skill shots. Yes, but so far that's the closest the game has to a skill shot is what he just did there, leaping over them. So far that's the closest we have to a skill shot.
Enemies you're going up against, what areas you're going into, what enemies you're hunting, and is it a player?
And my guess is that one has nothing to do with your targeting, and it has everything to do with where you're aiming, where your character's actually facing.
Is a longbow getting the drop on them?
They did say there's more action-oriented stuff that they're not showing here today, so who knows if any of that's going to be skill shot-oriented or ground target or anything, but yeah.
Well, guys, appreciate you joining us today to talk about this stuff. It is amazing that the world you guys are building.
I thought they were going to show the short bow.
I hope
oh yeah,
in
there's
the audience has enjoyed the demonstration.
Hopefully they short
talk
bow
to
here
us,
soon.
give us your feedback. Tell us what you liked about it, what you would like to see changed. Make sure you do so on the YouTube video and Twitch, on Reddit, on our forums, everywhere you possibly can. It means so much to us to be able to kind of reflect on what the community has to say about the.
But I mean, so far, the game world, I'll say it again, looks phenomenal. Like, I would have fun adventuring around in this world. Like, everything I've seen so far, from the desert, to the forest, to the fucking shoreline, everything has looked good so far. The weather, interactions, everything, the lighting, it's all good. Like, the game visually is very pleasing. The animations still need a little cleanup. They're not too bad, but there's definitely room for polish and cleanup on them. So they're well on their way. And some of these animations are really fucking cool. Like that leap into the air and blast it, that looks fucking amazing. Like, I want to use that skill. So things are looking good so far on all of that. I'm kind of curious to see how the short bow is, though. I swear to God, he said they were going to show that too. Come on, show me.
Jeremy,
show me.
Thank you very much for joining. It is always appreciated. Hearts in chat. These guys are doing awesome. Yes, purple heart. These guys are doing awesome work, and I'm loving the progress, and I'm loving sharing with community. As I know you and everyone else on the team who make these streams possible.
So it looks like a full charge versus an instant shot is about double damage.
Back on stream.
About 280 for a quick shot, and about a little over 500, like 520, 530 for a full charge. So seems to be a decent curve. I wonder if it ramps damage up the longer you hold it, or if it's just not charge, full charge. I definitely prefer ramping the damage up. That way, if you need to do a half shot, you're not losing out DPS because you're still scaling up.
We can't be here all day, so we can't answer every
They didn't mention that, so I don't know.
There was a little bit of confusion in regards to our hybrid combat system and how that's going to work. Basically, what are the advantages and disadvantages of using tab or action when it comes to
so Chad is asking. This is live, or was live, by the way. They streamed this.
Kind of address that. I think our
other people have my concern.
No, but I think there's a lot of new viewers who are watching today.
Absolutely. So, part of what we're exploring with this approach of our hybrid combat is offering the player the functionality to utilize either tab targeting or a reticle-based action camera.
Okay, but what's the advantage? What's the use case for the action?
To each,
there are benefits each, okay.
Both of them are kind of providing the player what they feel most comfortable with playing as.
Sure, I kind of figured that was the case, all right. But what's the advantage to adventure mode?
Unless they're a templated attack, right? In which case, there will be certain bonuses and or stronger applied chances for certain types of CC effects to be applied.
Okay, interesting. So if you're using adventure mode, skills can be stronger or have stronger application of their skills versus tab targeting. So that turns adventure mode into a skill expression where you gain more out of it if you're better at using it. Okay, I don't hate it so far. It's going to have to be a meaningful gap to make adventure mode worth using, but now there's at least a reason to use it. The numbers there will probably have to be fine-tuned consistently over the life of this, over the game's lifespan, because that's going to be a balancing nightmare. But if they can pull it off and they can do it well and they can get it reasonably well balanced, okay, all right, got it.
Or potential, excuse me, or potentially evasion and accuracy aspects of it.
Well, accuracy is always going to favor the tab target.
Test throughout Alpha 2 to kind of see where,
because it auto targets and it homes.
Those
so
two options of their action or
really strange. It is odd, and I don't know if it's necessarily a great idea. I kind of wish that they had just like hardlined in Guild Wars 2. If they wanted something hybrid, Guild Wars 2 is the way to go. A lot of your stuff is just, you have a target, your shit flies at that target, no problem. But then they kind of mix it up with things that are like ground targeting, where you have some skill expression in where you place it, how quickly you place it, how well you place it. Do you try and just hit this one target with it, or do you try and place it perfectly on the fly where you can hit all three of these targets without, you know, taking so long that it drastically lowers your DPS? You know, there's skill expression to it, but generally your average Neanderthal, like classic WoW player is going to pop in and just start, they'll get into it no problem. Relatively high skill floor, but still plenty of skill expression in the ceiling. As can be seen by people doing really weird challenges, like soloing high-level fractals and shit like that. Like, there's plenty of room for skill expression, but Tom, Dick, and Harry can just pop in and function fine. By the sound of it, yeah, we'll see how it goes. I think it's odd. I wish they had either just dedicated themselves to either going full adventure with it, like full action. Honestly, I think I would have preferred that, to be honest. Guild Wars 2 system works. I don't have a problem with it. If this ends up like that, it's fine. But, like, full action is so... I do like that so much more. It's much more engaging. Like New World or WildStar. WildStar's combat was fucking... like, you could fucking bang it out with that. Like, WildStar's combat was phenomenal. It was pure action, and I loved it. It was great. Still the best combat in any MMO to date. But either, like, hardlining it, like, this kind of have your cake and eat it too, I am concerned. I share your concerns, comrade. It's going to be difficult to balance. One of them is inevitably going to end up just being the way to go. Like, you'll have your casual farmers just doing casual shit in tab target mode. That way they can watch fucking Netflix and still farm and whatever they're doing. YouTube videos. Hi, maybe they're watching me. What's up? Hey, how you doing? And then when you're seriously playing the game, you're going to be an adventure. But that's basically how it's going to boil down. One mode is just intrinsically going to be better than the other, and that's the one that's going to get used. Like, you can't have your cake and eat it too, and I think that might end up being a problem. I am concerned about that. I'd rather see them just go hardline into the action, or at the very least, more closely mimic and imitate Guild Wars 2. If they do want to stick hybrid. So, we'll see. There's plenty of time for things to change. They're getting feedback. We'll see where it shakes out, where it shapes up. Can't think of any games I have two different modes to play like this, especially in PvP. Yeah, PvP is where... So, PvP is probably going to force you into the action mode. If you can get more effect out of it, that's where you can do it. People who use that mode and are good at the game, like, there's going to be a lot of skill expression there. Those people are generally going to win. Versus somebody who's tab targeting, as long as, you know, the player A is actually good at the action mode. So there is an upside there where it does create like a scaling skill progression that you can kind of get into. I don't know if that's going to be worth it, honestly. I don't know if that's enough to warrant it, but there's at least some benefit there to it. We'll see. I don't care for it so far, but we'll see.
This is still a work in progress, right? This is meant to give you kind of a look at where our approach has now been living over the past several months. When it comes to combat, based off of what we learned in Alpha 1, what player feedback has been along the way, and how we can create a compelling system of combat between these very different classes and weapon types. And that is something that I think, as you guys see now, our progress towards range combat, to me, it's feeling really good. I'm enjoying playing it. I like the feeling of getting in and taking these shots with these bows. I love the sound. I'm loving the environment. I'm loving the impact hits on the creatures.
But you're not worrying about balance yet. Like, you're not at the point where, like, you're playing the game, you're just going out, you're killing things are dying, you're using abilities, great. But you're not at the point where balance is going to impact the quality of the gameplay yet. Like, internally speaking. And that's where my concern with these systems go. Like, here and now, it probably works fine. Like, it looks fine in a vacuum here. But what happens when you start interacting with other systems, like castle sieges, naval combat, PvP in general, competitive PvE, like potentially raiding or dungeons or leaderboard, anything like that. Like, that's where this is going to start to become an issue. Like, right here, right now, just out in the fucking world, farming boars, you know, chopping trees, shit like that. No, like, it's fine, but that's not what you should be planning for. Because, like, anything works for that, you know? You should be planning for how it interacts with these other systems ahead of time, rather than trying to react to the chaos that it creates then. So I have concerns about that. We'll see.
There's a lot of work still to be done on visual effects, on more sound, and kind of on you know, these abilities. And
but aside from that, so far this update's been pretty good.
Fluid. They're not cumbersome. You're not having to stand still and be rooted in place.
True.
And
I hate that.
You still keep a lot of the agency, even between tab target or action combat mode. Both of them are letting the player move freely throughout their attacks.
All right. And then I think from the video perspective, you did try to explain a little bit of this, but kind of a clear understanding of how the auto attack works versus like the abilities and how you see those things intertwining, how you see people using the auto attacks versus the abilities. Obviously, the ones here didn't have cooldowns, as Trad said, but in the future they will. Yeah,
absolutely. So it's important to note that auto attacks in previous MMOs that many of us have played kind of serve as a filler between rotations and
I mean, yes, but there's usually more to it than that. Using Guild Wars 2 as an example, they are fillers in your rotation, but they're important, and the way Guild Wars 2's auto attack chains are built, like, it's not the same ability just repeated. There's a progression to the chain, and a lot of the times the effect is backloaded somewhere. So a major part of rotations in Guild Wars 2 is knowing exactly when to interrupt your auto attack chain in order to start your skill usage. In some cases, like some abilities like Warrior Axe, if you invest in the first hit, you invest in the second hit, but you don't invest in the triple chop, the third hit, where you get 3 packets of damage, like, a lot of the damage in Axe auto attack is backloaded. So if you interrupt it after just the first chop, that's a notable DPS loss versus letting the chain continue and finish before you go. And other things like Engineer with Rifle, you fire 3 times, but all 3 shots are exactly the same, so you're free to pretty much interrupt there. Some things aren't worth interrupting it for, like Net Shot or Jump Shot. You're generally better off letting that auto attack chain finish before you use those, but Scatter Shot is always worth interrupting your auto attack chain for. A second that's off cooldown, you fire that shit. Sort of thing. So he's right, but he's also wrong. Yes, but also no. Yes, they're filler, but in a game where they're utilized well, they're still a critical part of your rotation. And how they interact with your other skill usage. So yes, but no.
As your rotations go on cooldown, you go to your filler auto attacks.
Just to kind of point out how important that management is, in Guild Wars 2, a perfectly played rifle engineer right now put out about 30k in your standard 5-group content. 30k damage. Pretty good. Not the highest, but kind of in the middle. Pretty decent. It's a little easier than some classes to hit their higher numbers. But just spamming your buttons when they're off cooldown, not paying any attention to your auto attack rotation or your weapon swap timing, or the order of your usage, you're pulling about 12 to 15k. You're pulling half the damage because you're not managing frame times, you're not managing your auto attack and how it gets interrupted and interacts with your other skills. You're not dropping your grenade kit properly. Like, you go in, you pop it, and then you use the grenade kit button instead of the drop bundle button, because the grenade kit button, while it does have a cooldown, if you time it right, you don't interrupt your grenade throw and can switch back to your other weapon while that finishes. versus just hitting the drop bundle, which does interrupt your grenade throw, so you lose the damage on that if you clip it wrong, etc., etc., etc. Things like that. So there is a lot of room in skill expression with how your auto attack interacts with your skills.
Not the intent in Ashes of Creation. Ashes of Creation has separate and bespoke weapon skill trees that you develop over time when you gain experience in using these particular weapon types, these weapon groups.
So that's kind of an old school way of doing things. I kind of like it. I'm cool with that. I'm fine with it.
Versatility, both horizontal and
it's a bit classic, probably not necessary, but it hits my nostalgia bone in the right way.
Everyone in chat's like, pizza's here.
So Comrade says, in this system, one place auto-targeting might be useful is if they tied it into raids or something, like if there was some system where it tied everyone's targeting into the raid leader's UI or something and can just change everyone's targeting remotely. But then that takes away agency from everyone else in the raid. Yeah. And that puts a lot more pressure on the raid leader or the person assigned to that role. Guild Wars 2 kind of had an issue where when raiding first came out and Mesmers were absolutely, Chronomancer specifically, their new elite spec was absolutely fucking ridiculous. And basically every element of the raid was put on one person's shoulder. Because the Chronomancer gave you all the important buffs, which dramatically increase your DPS, and it was a complicated rotation to get them all out properly. Plus, they had a way to ignore a lot of mechanics with their invuln skills, so it was up to the Chronomancer to make sure your DPS downtime stayed up and you could ignore certain mechanics, so that was extra pressure on top of their rotation. They were also they were also oftentimes the tanks, so they had to worry about positioning and shit. Like, there was so much that went on the Chronomancer's shoulders, it was fucking insane. They basically soloed the goddamn raid and everyone else was there just to make sure you hit the DPS timer. Like the enrage timer and shit like that. It was fucking insane. It was too much pressure on one class, one person in the raid. 9 other people were just fucking coasting. All they had to do was make sure they got their DPS where it needed to be. That was it. Otherwise, they ignored everything. Nothing else mattered for them. It was all on one person to get through the fucking raid. And that was a lot of pressure, and it really was not healthy for raiding or the game or the community or anything like that. It was terrible. So systems like that, you have to be real careful with how much pressure you're putting on a single person. You know? But yeah, I mean, there's things I could do with it to make it worthwhile, to make the system better, make it meaningful, but it's also something I have to be careful about.
I'm so sorry, guys. This is unintended and unexpected for me to be here for the stream. Yes, come on in. I'm sorry. Yes, that's fine. I am so... I'm so sorry, guys. But anyways, the weapon skill trees are...
Is he at a restaurant? Because I see another table behind him. I thought he was in like a hotel room.
Rotational abilities and the weapon type that you've chosen.
Amazing.
And as you progress, you're going to be able to influence things like number of attacks, speed of those attacks, procs that occur on those attacks, status conditions that can be applied to the target based on these basic attacks. And then when you see those things proc and happen on the target, that's when you use certain rotational abilities in your class kit to complement those proc effects.
Okay.
Right? So you're watching out. You might get a telegraph through animation. Maybe your character does an odd type of release on the weapon animation attack, and that tells you, ooh, I'm proccing on this attack. Let me now go use this ability that has a 30% upswing on power or damage because they're under a certain status effect that's granted by...
Okay, so that makes the auto attacks a little more integral to the rotation. So, again, basically kind of like Guild Wars 2's version of auto attacking. Or even, I really hate the fact how Elder Scrolls Online does it, because it's all about animation canceling, and I think that's a really cheap way to create a skill ceiling. A good skill ceiling. And just generally not fun or engaging for lower skill players, because it just feels fucking terrible. But still, it kind of plays into the auto attack being an important part of the rotation, and that's basically what he's talking about here, because your auto attack is going to enable other abilities in your kit to be more effective at certain times and intervals and whatnot. So your auto attack becomes a core part interaction of your rotation, and unlocks certain elements, like certain burn windows for skills and whatnot. Sounds like it could be good. I don't necessarily dislike it. Rift kind of did something similar. Not exactly like that. It wasn't like as intentional, but the way procs kind of worked in Rift back in the day, it kind of worked out the same way, similar to that. It was all right. It worked well enough. Didn't hate it. As a more intentional design, a more intentional system, it could actually be quite enjoyable. I'll have to wait and see, I guess.
My weapon ability.
All right. And then we had a question from Baba Yaga, who was asking, will Rangers be required to carry arrows? And I saw a lot of other people asking
hopefully
about,
not. Oh, God. Ammo management in MMOs is fucking awful. Please no.
Just
please no.
So we are not
please no.
tracking ammunition.
Oh, thank God.
I'm not sure.
New World doesn't, and it's honestly not great.
To gameplay, not much. Usually, it's just a cumbersome tracking that you have to do. I kind of attribute it to similarly in tabletop RPGs when I have to have my players track their bolts or their arrows. You know how many they've used.
Yeah, it's just
a real stiffler on the DM side of it where. You know, especially at low levels where they would fire.
So in D&D, like he's talking about, in D&D, there is a reason, because it can dramatically impact like a dungeon crawl, and it can impact the way it plays. So there's at least some value to it there. But even then, I prefer a less cumbersome system that's a little looser. Like a system I've seen used that I really like for like D&D and ammo management is, okay, you fired a bunch of shots. Cool, you got a quiver. Your quiver is currently full. Roll a d20. If you roll over 10, if you roll over the half mark, so if you roll like an 11 or higher, your quiver is full. You're good. Keep going. If you roll lower, okay, your quiver just reduced a step in quality. It's much less management. It's quicker. It's done on the fly. There's no asking, okay, DM, how many arrows can I recover? Did any of them not splinter into 1,000 fucking pieces when I fired them? Okay, well, give me a check here. Okay, let's roll. No, so it's a lot easier, but it still gives some gravity to ammo and ammo management in like D&D dungeon crawling and whatnot. And then, okay, so, all right, you lost some arrows there. You're down one step. You now have like 15 arrows instead. Combat finish. Okay, roll me a d20. You rolled an 11. You got 15 arrows. Keep going. Oh shit, you rolled a 3. Well, god damn it, Timmy, you lost some more arrows. Now you're down to 10. So, like, I think that's a decent enough middle ground. You don't have the minutia of trying to track every fucking arrow and how it hit, or you're trying to figure out if it's viable or not to reuse, etc., etc., etc. So, it kind of gives you the gravity of having to manage your ammo, but it's a lot looser and just generally better for overall play.
Attack, release an arrow.
What's up, Dark Orion? Appreciate the 25 months.
If they miss, they would roll a 50% chance of whether they could recover the ammunition.
I know, Steven. I've been there. I was one of those people. You did this to me.
Sometimes that's fun if the party's low, but no, I'm sorry. In MMO gameplay, it just doesn't make
sense.
Yeah,
in MMOs, it's a terrible fucking system. However, ammo management is awful and should never exist.
We are thinking about unique buffs that can.
It really sucks in New World. Your weapons, it really drags down range combat there.
Instance basis of the attack. So, for example, you might have a quiver that you can activate on a cooldown.
Okay.
And that quiver might apply some type of rider effect on the basic weapon attack.
So you keep different quiver types with different effects on them, maybe like bodkin arrows. Maybe those are good for what? Bodkin arrows are good for causing like physical damage to the wound and making it bleed more, right? Or were bodkins the one that go through armor better?
Depending on the adversary.
I don't remember. Anyway, there's different armor types for different. Okay, you could have poisoned arrows in this quiver, or you could have arrows that are better for bleeding in this quiver, or you got one that pierces more armor in that one. You can get okay. Like I don't hate that idea. I think that's neat. Different ammo types, but they're not necessary. Like you don't have to worry about them.
In the video, when I switched to the action combat,
just hanging out. Excellent. Me too.
I was able to fire the bow.
Holy fuck! Okay, rewinding.
And I didn't need to have a target in order to do that. That's one of the differences between tab and action combat mode. Is that you can launch projectiles in the action combat mode as a blind fire option. And if a target or
when is that actually going to be useful though?
In the way between the time of that projectile launching and impacting its either distance or
in action mode, projectiles are projectiles. They can be intercepted. Obviously, you can blind fire them. I don't see in an MMO where blind firing would ever become a thing. Like, even in New World, nobody blind fires. Like, it doesn't fucking happen. Like, it's an idea, and you'd think on paper, like, oh, people can just blind... in reality, nobody fucking does it. It doesn't happen. It doesn't exist. But interception, like it becoming a projectile, now, more often than not, if you're trying to hit a specific thing, interception is not necessarily a good thing, though. Like, your projectile becomes a projectile, whereas if you're tab target, it's like more hit scan, where it's definitely going to hit the target you're aiming at. Like, that's just more points to tab targeting. Because blind firing is almost never going to be an actual fucking thing, and people being able to intercept your arrows, while good for them and their team, like you get a tank in the way blocking the arrows that's not good for the person shooting. So why would they opt into a system that's negative for them and possibly beneficial for the enemy? Like, I'm not sold on that. That's not a good reason for the hybrid system. That's not. No, that's nothing.
A piece of terrain or another target.
It's a big nothing burger.
Players might move into that projectile range.
Yeah, but that's not beneficial for the shooter at all. Like
whatever it landed on for a little short bit there too, which is really cool. I forwarded it to show that case that as you were talking about it.
Coming along. Oh yeah, it's coming along great.
That lined up with what he was saying
so far.
And then we have from Valiant Salad, which is just a hilarious name to begin with. I love it. They asked if a ranger doesn't have a bow equipped, can they still use their airstrike? Like, would they still be able to use certain abilities even if they didn't have their bow equipped?
Some abilities will require that certain pieces of equipment are equipped.
I mean, that makes sense. You're not going to shoot an arrow without a bow.
Like a
but if you got one that's like, whip out your little secondary dagger for a quick strike and roll away, you should be able to do that without the bow.
It's important to note that as part of the Ashes of Creation paper doll, you have...
Paper doll! There's a term you don't hear anymore. That's old school as shit.
Slot as well. So you don't have to switch between weapons per se. If you execute an ability that requires a ranged weapon, but you have your melee weapon out, it will automatically
switch to it. That's good. Okay. Smooth, fluid combat. I like that.
Your basic attack, should you choose.
The other idea, I've seen some games do it before. It doesn't really work out well. It just makes combat more cumbersome for no meaningful payoff.
Between those two, even in combat.
So that's a good decision.
Still equipped. One other thing I want to point out about ranged combat and projectile-based action target mode.
Force all players in action mode during PvP. That would be that would be something, but at that point, why not just develop the game around action mode? You know, maybe that's something they do. Hard to say. Could be beneficial. Could work out that way. Yeah. I don't know. There's stuff they could do. It depends on where the feedback goes, I guess.
Soft target lock and hard target lock. Okay. Hard target tracks the target even if you're in reticle mode, it tracks that target. You can use abilities against that target as if you were in tab mode. And if you have, let's say you're on that wall and you're shooting down at enemies who are just out of range, you can fire those projectiles off at the ground. And if they move within range and in that area, they'll be impacted by the projectile.
Yeah, but that kind of plays into that's blind firing, basically. And that is such a niche scenario where that's actually going to fucking work out to the point where it's worth using a cooldown. Like, you can do the same thing in Guild Wars 2 sometimes with certain skills. Sometimes it works out, but it's not something you rely on. It's not something you look for. It's just, hell, I'm up on this tower. Nothing's a threat to me. Fuck it. We'll see if they walk into it. You know, it's not a compelling part of the combat. It's not a reason. It's a byproduct, not a reason. I don't think that's worth the system being how it is. Like,
all right.
You know,
and then It's No Me wants to know, can you swap the bow in between your combos? Like if you're doing quick shot and swap to a different bow to maximize mobility and DPS?
Yeah,
so is there weapon swapping?
Hot weapon swap,
okay.
Even in combat, but you can't swap your armor and gear.
Okay. I mean, that's fair enough. Is it integrated like Guild Wars 2 where you got a hotkey and you can switch between two designated weapons? Or is it like you got to do it Ultima Online style where you pop open your fucking inventory, drag the fucking weapon as quickly as you can? Like, how much UI interaction is this going to require? Like, is this going to create such an unreasonable skill ceiling that casual players just get shit on if they're not running a fucking... So what that's going to turn into, just like Ultima Online back in the day, someone's going to run a weapon swapping script. Everyone's going to do it. If you don't do it, you're not going to be competitive. You're going to get fucked. So depending on how they implement that, they need to have the appropriate UI for it. It needs to be something engageable by everyone to a reasonable degree. Guild Wars did this reasonably well. You get two weapons, you can swap between them in combat. There's a little bit of a cooldown. I don't even necessarily know if the cooldown was required. I kind of feel like the cooldown... They had other systems that played into it, so the cooldown was necessary for those secondary systems, but Anyway, like, it was part of the UI. Anyone could do it. It wasn't some great skill burden. Nobody had to rely on fucking weapon swap scripts like in Ultima Online or other old games that had it. Like, so that's we'll see how they implement that.
Up to a ranger running away.
I have concerns.
So, like, if a ranger's super mobile,
concerns.
What are the melee's options in order to catch them?
It depends on the melee user, right? Obviously, different class kits.
The PvP area being part of the travel between land masses is going to be something to get used to.
They'll have chains to pull back. They'll have
the naval. Isn't it just the deep ocean though, like the outskirts, or is it like in that middle chasm too? I was under the impression it was only like the far seas. Like there were paths you could use to travel through and not have to worry about it.
On the type of challenges
I could be wrong though. Maybe I misunderstood.
Rotations you spec into from your skill tree. If you're having problems against rangers because they're constantly getting away, then it's probably a good idea for you to spec into abilities that lock the target down, that give you mobility.
Of course, standard rock, paper, scissors combat there. Yeah.
Zone control.
Gap closers, lockdowns, CC. I mean, it's pretty standard. Every MMO.
I have to have a target in my crosshair to use snipe or quick shot?
For abilities, it depends on the ability. If the ability requires a target, yes, you will be required to have a target even in the action mode.
Okay.
If the ability, however, is a templated attack, such as a line attack or a AoE attack.
Okay, so they're talking about skill shots. The game is going to have skill shots. Okay, cool. That's good. Good to know. So line shots are going to be in. That line shots are an area where having the action camera could be beneficial because you could lead the shot.
I think there was questions.
That's good to hear. I'm happy to hear that.
The bow and or the longbow versus the short
Fair enough.
bow. Are there different ranges?
See only as far as you're okay. So
the two of them,
like but like there's different categories of sea. There's like the deep sea, like the outer sea, and then there's like that inner sea. Like you got the outer ocean, and then you got that inner sea between the two continents. I guess that's a distinction. As far as I understood, aside from maybe very specific areas, the inner sea was less of a PvP hot zone. It was mostly the outer, which is why they expanded the outer sea so much, is because that's where a lot of the forced naval PvP would be. Of course, they're going to need reasons for you to go out there too, so I'm curious what they're planning for that. Because if there's no reason to go out there other than just wanting to go out for naval combat, there needs to be an incentive to go out to the deep ocean. Anyway, I could be wrong. Outer sea? Okay, yeah, the outer sea, yeah. So that shouldn't be too bad just for standard traveling. You should be able to get through continent to continent, no problem with boats and whatnot.
These changes can be paced.
I thought they were going to show the short bow. They haven't shown actually any of the short bow at all. So I guess it's just maybe I misunderstood it when we started. Anyway, I mean, so far this all looks good. Like I have concerns, I have questions. We'll see how it shakes out. They're taking feedback on it now. I'm not the only one with the issues, according to chat. So we'll see how it shakes out.
But. The idea is because each weapon type has an associated weapon tree for progression, we almost want each of these weapon groups to feel distinct in the way they play.
As they should, yes.
Because of that, it touches a lot of different aspects of the combat for them.
I mean, if your two bows are the same, then why have different bows, Why have short bow and long bow if they play identical to each other?
I see a lot of conversation in regards to this is...
what's the point? So they should play different.
Talked about a little earlier
they should feel different, yes.
What the benefits are for tab versus action. I feel like a lot of people feel like tab is just easier, so why would I use...
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Action. So I don't know if you want to kind of go into a little bit more detail about the benefits of one over the other.
So we talked a little bit about the ability to blind fire, not
doesn't
requiring
matter.
a target in order to shoot, right? That's one of the benefits.
Doesn't matter.
Is,
and
the focus...
what you mean by that too is that you can shoot without having to have a target in regard for action combat, but that doesn't mean it's going to like beacon honing, go find the target. So keep that in mind, folks.
Right. So that that is a component.
But that doesn't matter. Like,
is, a lot of it
that's not an advantage, really.
Well.
Like very rarely.
Different players prefer different modes of combat.
And in that one scenario, you just switch to that for a second, and then you're done with it. So that's not meaningful.
To the movement of the cursor or the movement of the mouse,
Okay, this is the main advantage he's talking about, not having to manage your camera with your mouse too. So, to be fair, I'll give him that. That could be an advantage, but I don't know if it's enough.
We lean more towards tab targeting, but that doesn't mean there is not a playstyle of action that provides the user some benefits.
So he's basically saying, yeah, like tab targeting is the way to go. That's what we're ultimately designing for. That's what we ultimately prefer. That's what you should use. So.
That might
so far, it sounds like action mode is kind of pointless. Like he did mention you would be stronger with it, but I don't know how impactful or meaningful that's going to be. Or is that even going to end up going? Because that's going to be a balancing issue there. Is it worth it? Like, so far, I'm feeling that like they should just maybe scrap the action mode. Honestly, like if it's not going to be a meaningful part of the game, just drop it. Don't waste development time on it, please. Like either make it the way to play the game or don't bother. Half-assing it's just going to give you 2 subpar systems.
But we do have a forum thread over on the forums.
You can't have your cake and eat it too. Focus on the one you actually want. It'll be better in the long run that way.
Over there, please head on over there. Give us our feedback. Steven specifically.
So, I guess we'll see. Like, there's a lot of players. Players are going to have opinions on this. They've been pretty good about taking feedback. So hopefully the players can push them in a direction. Whether it's the Guild Wars 2 tab target skill shot style, or if it's like the full action, like New World or Wildstar. One or the other. Either's fine ultimately. Like I play Guild Wars 2 still. The combat's engaging enough. I got no problem with it. So if that's the way they go, that's fine. But they need to pick. They need to pick a lane. Splitting it like this is not a good idea. It's just it's going to impact both of them negatively. Honestly, pick a lane.
So with that, I think we're going to move on to the character art stuff. Unless you have anything else you want to add, Steven.
No, just everything you said. Right, providing that feedback is very important. Give us your thoughts.
We'll see. Maybe they'll do something new and unique that makes it work. So far, it doesn't sound like it, and they definitely seem to have their preference on how it goes. But
where the strengths lie and where the feedback is important, right?
This is where the feedback is going to be huge.
We're going to be uploading this to YouTube shortly after the stream.
Hey, that's where we're watching it. Oh, look at that. Let's go. All right, let's go to the art update. We're done with that now. So
character art update then. Some of which you've seen some of the things in game, but we will switch over there. So first and foremost, we have these lovely snake folk. This is the Najash tribe, which is pretty cool. Definitely check them out. I'm excited for you guys to see these when they animate. It's going to be really cool. They're in a T-pose.
So we saw this a little while ago, but they're showing variations on it and them in more of their final.
But yes.
So it looks good. They look good. They're good-looking enemy.
Very, very cool.
I can't wait to slaughter them by the thousands.
Looks awesome. I'm excited to fight them. You guys will have to tell us what kind of abilities you'd like to see them having.
Definitely poison.
Our living statue knight.
Okay.
A couple different versions of this so you can see them. But this
so
is
basically a golem, essentially. A type of golem.
Really cool. And then also when they're all combined.
So hey, that's good. I think it was Chill asking about golems, so that's good.
Very neat.
They're here. Back. They exist.
We're looking at the living statue. We just finished looking at.
Looks good. Good detail.
Tribe.
Looks stony. Yeah. I mean, their models so far have been bang on. Like, there's not going to be much negative to say about their models. They've got a real good eye for them. They make them well.
And kind of origins.
The appearances and the art style and the style of everything it's pretty good.
That stuff.
So these are the living statues we're talking about?
Well, we went over the snake folks and then also.
Absolutely. Yeah. So obviously, as you guys know, the world is rich with history and lore.
History,
and
lore.
This is enemy
I love lore.
And you're seeing with the Najash.
They got a sort of golem. They've got living statues or enchanted statues, which kind of fall in the golem territory.
From where they inhabit now, there's a deep city that has been destroyed, but also
deep city has been destroyed,
under a significant amount of magma. And it's really it is a really fun.
So that's where the armors come from, the Magma City.
Of an NPC faction, right? So you're not just going to see, we talked about this in the past, you're seeing the models now. They're not always going to be cobras. Some are going to be...
maybe they're talking about the snakes that are in the Magma City. Okay.
They're going to be different variants that are represented as part of these serpent races.
Fair enough. Sounds good. Model variety, always good. Thank you from XCOM 2 a little bit.
You see that,
or like Naga from most other MMOs, like World of Warcraft or whatever. Yeah. They're called Crate in Guild Wars 2.
That got turned into adversaries. And you'll be facing them.
Enchanted Golems used to be part of a security system, but the thing they were securing no longer exists, so they're just kind of wild and they're hostile. Okay, that's fair enough.
They're going to have some unique and interesting animations that almost look, my desire for these is that they almost feel a bit cumbersome in their movement, a bit stop
as they should. Like, I don't see any joint points on those. Like, it's gonna be tough for them to move. It's a lot of magical force.
They look pretty sick, so I'm excited to see that come to fruition. Eli did a great job. And then we've got our zombie.
Yes, good-looking zombies too, like straight out of a fucking horror game. Zombies. This is what I want to see out of my MMO zombies right here. Hell yeah! Make them gruesome. Make them scary. That's a good-looking zombie right there. You can see what he had for breakfast. That's how you know that's a legitimate, good-quality zombie. Is when you know what their last meal was.
You can't have a good fantasy without some good undead.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. I like it.
These guys are definitely compelling, especially if you consider the atmospherics in the zone that they'll be placed.
Oh, yeah. Like, they're really good with atmosphere. Unreal Engine 5 is good for building atmosphere, so God, fuck, that's gonna be great.
We like to play a lot with.
I hope we get a teaser on, like, a horror-style zone soon, like Darkwood from World of Warcraft, or Brightwood from New World. Like, what is a horror zone gonna look like for them? What are these guys gonna be ambling around in? I want to see it. I hope we get to see it soon. Is it gonna be like a bog or marshy?
These ghostly.
What the fuck?
Armor.
Okay.
Folk.
All right.
Which I think
hair's a little awkward on the two with hair. Feels wrong, feels off.
Very, very neat.
Something odd about it. Is that even hair? Is that like a... it's definitely hair, because you can see the part. The hair looks a little off, but otherwise it's neat.
Yeah.
I'm sure once they're in the game and have like little particle effects going on, and this is just the model sculpted out, so I think these could stand to be a lot better in motion in game. The hair does look a little off.
That kind of pulsate, glow, and move, to kind of show that more ethereal aspect of them.
Like, once they get those ethereal particle effects, shimmers, the way it interacts with the lighting of the game, I think they'll look a lot better in game.
Priscilla, one of our newer artists, created the Sabletooth, which is a little cub from one of our previous sets.
Very nice.
Very cute.
So that was one from one of the pre-purchase sets. This was a skin or a mini pet, I think.
Those are great.
I believe these are mini pets.
Got that? This is
that's a nice little mini pet. It looks good, well modeled. Its tail's happy to see you, chat.
Sorry, go ahead, Steven.
Looks like a mix between a weird lion. It's got that longer body, or maybe it's like a liger.
It was kind of like going with the corgi like short legs, but like the tiger body. That was kind of what I think. This is one I designed before with the withering set.
Well, it looks cute. Yeah. It's a fucking adorable. It would make a fine house pet, I'm sure.
That you saw in game, Steven kind of like showed you close up, but like
this is good. So the Minotaur have like a corrupted or rotting theme to them, like.
But then you see how good they look.
Because you can kind of you can actually kind of see it here. You can see like the flesh is kind of like the skin and fur are kind of sloughing off the flesh, and there's boils, and like it's very like Nurgle feeling, like something touched by some kind of corruption. They're just kind of existing with it at this point. So that's a nice. It's kind of a very different take on Minotaurs, and I do like it. It's mostly a cosmetic thing. It might play into the lore a bit. We'll see how far they go with it, but it's even as just like a little aesthetic thing. I still kind of like it.
Just look, I mean,
like they're sickly. They're sickly bovine.
Absolutely.
Oh, you can really see it there. Like, damn, yeah.
It's fun to see the full 3D because it's hard to see it when you're in game sometimes because we're running around doing things.
I know. I try.
Yeah, you can see it's all kind of fucked up and gnarly looking, almost like they were burned, almost. But it's a little moist and fresh, and you can definitely tell it's just like the fur is just sloughing off, like it's some weird ass skin condition.
I tried to give a nice little.
It's a nice touch. I like it.
Yeah.
In the level, I cheated a little bit there too. I turned myself friendly with the monsters.
You switched sides. How dare you?
No.
And then, of
But
course,
they got a good
this
sound, good
is,
theme going
one
on.
of the shields, and I think there's a staff as well that Chris made. Yeah.
Oh, it's more like a spear. Yeah, yeah.
Not a staff.
I mean, some games the same thing, basically.
And then I think we have an image of... I don't have it in here. Then we're going to show you... We've shown you the Empyrean concepts. And I believe last time we showed you just the head model for them.
So these are their high elves, basically.
Now you're seeing
they're formal regal elves.
We're going to show you the full model for the Empyrean. Okay. So this is...
So they've done quite a bit of work since they showed this. What was it, a month ago?
The female. This is the male.
Okay.
And obviously you'll have customization options with your characters.
All right, well, there you go. There's like the full model.
The starting point for where we're...
I mean, it's about what you would expect. Okay.
Yeah, be, of course, you guys have seen their character creator.
Nothing too crazy here.
It's work in progress, Altitude State, but there will be lots of customization options, many of which are race specific, like the types of tattoos and hairstyles, right? But there's a lot.
It'd be interesting to see what their cultural armor. I wonder if cultural armor is going to be a thing even.
Chris did, I think it was Atkins, right?
But there's potential for some interesting appearances here, but just based on what their hair stuff is doing.
Manny doing some of the concept and
he looks done with everyone's shit. He probably is.
Which he's done a great job with that.
Which you all saw before and give us tons of feedback on, so we've definitely been incorporating some of that.
People are very judgy. He's tired of it.
The Kalar, speaking of Manny, these are concepts. So keep that in mind.
These are the concept. So not models.
So this is kind of the direction we're going for the Kalar.
Standard human.
Last time we got to see the Valoon,
standard,
kind of
European-esque human. Fair enough. They showed the more like Middle Eastern or Arabian flair, even humanoids last time. So this is more your standard traditional, what you expect to see human fucking European
from the
feel. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, this is. More traditional humans, right? That's present in the games we come to love and expect. And the Valoon we talked a little bit about in the past is having a more Jinn ancestry that's going to be more pronounced in their models when you guys get to see that in the future.
So Jinn, so
more arcane
they're human, but they're humans descended from Jinns or magical elementals. So so they'll have a little more flair and flash to them versus these
highly recommend going back and watching our update from last month.
Fair enough.
And then of course we have
the dwarves,
Nikuan, and
they already have a lot of concept art for the
concepts. You've seen a couple different renditions of them. I know Stephen has continued.
Actually, this might be the first time we've seen the female. The female might be new.
The new direction for some of these races. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about this, because this is a little...
I recall seeing a number of different male concept arts and models, but I think this might be the first female I've seen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
they look good. It's an interesting take on dwarves.
Take a little bit of a different approach. Manny's been doing a great job in adding some stylization elements into these player character races, and these are the types of differences we want to have.
No, they got an interesting style.
Influenced player character races, and there's a lot here that's inspired from Polynesian culture, which I think has been captured very well as part of the concepts. That Manny's
Polynesian, more island, more seafaring dwarves rather than just like King Under the Mountain.
Yeah, they're looking really
Not that there's anything wrong with the King Under the Mountain. I do love me some classic dwarves, but it's interesting to see things get shaken up every once in a while.
I hope that you all
so I kind of like it. I think it's an interesting way to handle dwarves. It kind of shifts them to a very different degree, going from earth to water.
Most games you're not. You don't get to see the progression and have feedback along the way.
I can't accept a non-bearded female. I'm sure they'll let you beard the female. Don't worry, Raider. I'm sure probably maybe.
You don't even want to know how many animations per every single one has to go in.
A lot.
Teams have to do so much work in regards to that when it comes to combat, because you have to think about the transition from when you're standing to when you go into combat, and then all the different moves that you're doing and the transitions between those. It gets a little crazy. But we appreciate you all being patient with us and following our journey.
I mean, that's part of the process. Every MMO does it. That's nothing unique to this one.
Absolutely, and it's been, as you said, such a...
It is good to keep in mind the workload involved in something as simple, seemingly outwardly as simple as adding a new race to the game. There is a shitload of work that you don't even think about that does go into it.
And you guys can go back.
Sometimes it's a little easier where you can just like use the same skeleton and animations for one thing and just apply it to another. World of Warcraft does this a lot where they, especially, why do you think they like releasing the furry classes so much? Like, it's nothing but furry classes now in WoW. Like, why? Because it's easy. Because they've got all these other ones, they can just rig the new appearance onto the old one and boom, done, job done, job done. Notice how they haven't added ogres as a playable race yet, which is a fucking travesty because that would be a very cool playable race and I would really like to see it. But they have nothing. They have nothing else. Like, they would have to create a new setup for that, which would take development time and effort, which with how much money they make and charge with the game, you would think they'd be okay doing, because that's the whole point of having a fucking sub fee and paid expansions. But no, they're not going to do it because it's too much work. They can just make the next Vulpira. Okay, we got the fog. All right, turn them into a corgi. Let's get the corgis in here. Make a living corgi. No, not a war. Fuck the worgen. Nobody likes the worgen.
Interesting, I think.
Bring in the corgis.
Yeah, and of course, we're gonna talk a little bit about our studio updates. So
I can't believe ogres aren't in WoW yet. That's fucking insane.
And then we'll get into our.
They're such a good, like, an obvious choice for adding a new class or race in.
We appreciate you all bearing with us because it's a long one.
Yeah, the studio update's pretty short and sweet.
We got 50 shades of furry going on. It's insane.
There's been a lot.
Is that what WoW has become? You haven't played every new class that comes out is basically a furry at this point.
A lot of.
I think the last, like, they had goblins that came out like 6 expansions ago at this point. That was the last non.
Website, which the community team has posts updates for every now and then across our socials. Make sure to help us spread that word. And, I think come the end of the year and the beginning of next year, we're going to have another significant hiring push again to bring on a lot of more talented artists, engineers, and designers on the team. And
okay, so they're hiring more people. It's good. Studio update. Yeah, it's actually a short studio update. Not much going on with the studio. Fair enough. Here your question. All right. Question and answer time. Let's see if any of that's interesting, and otherwise we'll wrap up here for the evening. We got the bulk of it. We got what we came here for, but let's see.
Over on the forums.
Are they going to show the questions so I can kind of zoom through to what ones are interesting?
My team is amazing. Brian, Cody do a fantastic job. Cody goes
imagine an ogre with Conrad's mace from Plague Tale Innocence. He did have a dope mace. It was a good mace, yeah, no. Ogre would be proud to carry that around.
Because he reads every single comment in that thread. So first up, we have Jezber from talking about weapon animations. And the question is, how will animations work while dual wielding weapons of A,
it's actually a decent
type,
question.
For example, an axe and a dagger, or B, different weapon speeds?
Yeah, so dual
that's an
weapons
interesting
will
question.
have their own animation sets.
Okay. So it won't take into account different weapon speeds at all.
There'll be
just
a limited
whatever you
selection of which weapons can be dual weapons.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. Players will make that selection. They'll create those dual weapons as bespoke single items that, when equipped, will occupy both the main and offhand.
All right, so it'll be independent of what the weapons were before they dual wielded. Fair enough.
Is we author animations at a particular speed, and then we adjust that with a modifier based on whatever is influencing that either increase or slow down.
So that's how a lot of games do their dual wielding. Right. When you have like an axe and a sword, the sword's quicker, the axe is slower. It just makes it just alters the global speed of using the two weapons.
So
that's pretty standard. Nothing crazy there, nothing unexpected.
Role composition. What exactly does that mean in practice? Are they
and most games, again, you just choose what one. Like you have the sword of rending in one hand, and you have the axe of cutting that bitch tree down over there 10 minutes ago, axe in your offhand. And
it depends on the
and it just affects the speed of your animations as it averages out the two. Yeah, I mean, every game does that. That's nothing crazy here, nothing out of the ordinary.
They will have supporting abilities that enhance the role of that particular summon, or that can hybridize the role of that summon based on the ability they cast on the summon, or support by casting on the target either.
Yeah, I mean,
it is something
again, that's not entirely uncommon. You can basically change the stance of your pet depending on what
a secondary
archetype. That's what it sounds like, basically. So again, that's pretty expected. I think that's how a lot of games with summons work. Either that or just have specific summons for specific roles, like warlocks and warcraft.
As a role. So if you go with a secondary archetype
conjures and
for your class selection, that's more DPS
like Final
oriented.
Fantasy 11. I haven't really played Final Fantasy 14 much, 15, whatever the 14, I think. So I can't say how summons work there, but on 11 they were kind of like that. Just certain summons were good for certain things.
Summon benefits you would have as a
so this one you can pick what summon you like and just kind of alter what its role is based on what stance essentially you put it in.
Would like to know about ships.
What buff you put on it or whatever. So,
stream, which if you haven't watched, you should go watch.
Maybe a little more cumbersome than it needs to, but you know, it's maybe not necessarily a bad thing if you really like one type of summon over another.
You hinted at weather impact.
Guild Wars 2 kind of suffers from that, in that pets have very specific roles, like some are tanks, some are DPS, some are Condi DPS, etc., etc., etc. Some are supporty. But I like bears as ranger pet. Always loved bears. The problem is bears are terrible for fucking DPS in Guild Wars 2, so you never... I mean, bears... Like, there's no reason to have a tank pet, period, in Guild Wars 2, so bears just never get used. It's a shame, because I want a bear pet. It'd be nice if I could make a bear pet a DPS pet, but I can't. It's locked into more tanky and beefier. A little bit of support. So, having a system like that where I could have the bear out, and then just make the bear, like, the biggest, baddest mauling motherfucker out there... Yes, so that's kind of, this system's kind of taking that approach, I guess, where you can use whatever fucking summon you like, whatever tickles your fancy, and then you can tune it to whatever you need it to be from the sounds of it. We'll see how it shakes out.
Ships. Could this also indicate that ships can have status effects, such as being on fire?
Oh, yeah, ships absolutely can have status effects. A majority of the time, those status effects will be conferred based on weapon types that are being used against the ship.
So ships can be set on fire. Okay. Is it kind of like Sea of Thieves, where it's impactful and matters, or is it just a visual thing? Can you like put out the fires?
And wind patterns provide the ship's sails or the ship's movement speed.
I guess we'll see.
Certain advantages in certain directions. So that kind of keeps the playing field dynamic, right? You're not going to be in a certain area of the sea and always expect that when I turn, horizontal.
Yeah, see, that's how Sea of Thieves does it. It works well enough, and it can have an actual major impact on how naval combat works, and better captains or in crews are better at navigating wind conditions and can do some interesting stuff. So that's fair.
What is the reason for requiring the destruction of a caravan by the attackers, as opposed to the attackers gaining possession of the caravan?
So it needs to be, to answer that question, it needs to be a bit of an even playing field. I've experienced games where you can take control of that particular vehicle, and while you can with ships, with caravans, we really want to emphasize this idea.
So you can steal people's ships. Interesting.
Not necessarily stealing the vehicle, but being forced to achieve victory through destruction. And when you do, you then have the logistical issue of how you're going to transport those goods on your own, rather than servicing the transport of that by just hijacking the opponent.
So what he means about even playing field there is pretty much all the burden of that system, if you could just steal it, is on the person doing the caravan. It's lopsided. There's almost no risk, or there's no cost to attacking it, other than potentially reputation or whatever, but who gives a shit in modern MMOs? Nobody does. Nobody cares. Being a troll is considered good. Like, it's an aspiration for many. So that doesn't matter. So what he's saying here is if you destroy it, now suddenly you have to figure out what to do with all the goods. There's some burden now being placed on the attacker, other than them just having all the benefits in the world and all the burden being on the person being attacked. So now there's logistics that have to be planned for and managed by the attacker. There's a cost put into it. Like, how do I get this shit where it needs to go? So that's actually a really good idea, and I'm glad to hear they considered that.
There's also some gamification.
Fire spread, that's a good question. Maybe the wind can affect it. Who knows? Windier day, fire spreads faster, maybe.
That caravan to a certain location. We need these to become stolen goods, so to speak, for a certain system. And as a result of that, you need to be able to loot the container and not necessarily turn it in. We also don't have a means by which players would turn in another player's caravan at a caravansary as a pit stop or as a final destination. because that would be a stolen caravan also. So we want to provide some level playing field for the caravan users who are transiting around the world, a requirement on the attacker's end to actually succeed at destroying it rather than ninja caravan per se.
Yeah, yeah, okay, that's good to hear. They've taken some good considerations with that system and how it's going to interact with itself, so that's good.
Different rule sets.
Makes me feel a little better about it.
All right. Well, when it comes to caravans, you wake up and you choose violence.
Pretty much. So one thing I'm concerned about with caravanning is that's great for the people that's great for, but that's going to be a very small element of the community. Like maybe 5% of your players are going to be into caravanning. So what's the reasonable application for a regular player who doesn't give a good flying fuck about the inconveniences of caravanning? Like, how do I get my shit from point A to point B that isn't just sorely going to drag the game down? New World has this problem. They've kind of fixed it, and now that you can just pull shit from all your different storages for free from area to area. Like, is this just going to be a straight up huge burden for the average day-to-day player who's not going to be fucking caravanning because they don't give a shit about economic play? Like, the amount of people who care about the economic play is going to be small. Like, this is a niche system for a niche segment of your player base. Like, easily, probably less than 10% of your player base. So are you really going to massively inconvenience 90% for 10% to have fun? Like, how am I going to just move shit I need to move without this super inconvenient system? Like, is this going to be a huge burden on me as a player who is probably not going to run caravans? Like, I don't find that to be engaging content. I don't care about caravans. New World had that problem. They fixed it, thank God, because it was fucking terrible having to move shit from town to town. It really dragged down the game. It wasn't engaging. There was no strong gameplay loop for it. It was just terrible. So now being able to do that on my own for free, just go to this town, pull shit out of the other one. There's still a little bit of an inconvenience to it because I still have to manage the UI elements involved. But it's much less of a fucking kick to the balls. That's my concern with them going so hard on caravanning systems, is how is that going to fuck everyone else? Hopefully not at all. We'll see. Maybe it's certain goods need to be caravan, like big things like city building shit or siege equipment, stuff like that. And then just your everyday like bundle of iron ore you can just fucking fast travel off with. Like, it's not a big deal, or you can transport it from place to place with a click of a button. Maybe it takes a couple of minutes, but it'll get there. Like, how are we going to make this system not fucking miserable for everyone else? That's my question here. Because once you take this system and you actually put it in and it interferes with everyone else is going to hate it and it's going to be a problem. People are going to piss and moan about it. It might actually just be enough to chase people off. There are a number of people who did leave New World because of how inconvenient storage management was and resource management. And that game didn't even have a caravan system. They just didn't want you to have everything accessible everywhere, because on paper it sounded like a good idea, but in practice there was no fucking payout for it. It was just a massive inconvenience for the sake of inconvenience. That's my worry with that. We'll see. You hire yourself out there. Yeah, like for about 10% of the player base, that's going to be a good system. For everyone else, nobody else gives a shit, and it's just a huge inconvenience, though. So for a certain section of the player base, that's huge. It's great.
Next up, we have Superheroes 6785.
But is so severely inconveniencing 90% of the player base worth making that 10% happy?
To housing.
There's always going to be an opportunity cost.
Furnish your ships similar to housing.
Yeah,
you know?
Like a quarter.
Yeah, there are absolutely attachments that can apply to the ship.
Okay, so ship attachments, modifications. Got it.
There are also slots.
You can tweak your fucking mass or your the figurehead of the front of your ship and stuff.
But are also decorative.
Got it.
All right.
Understood.
Interesting. I'm excited to hear about that. Because I think there's going to be a follow-up question to that would be, basically, would you have like a captain's quarter and you can put like chairs and stuff in there?
So can you decorate your ship?
Like a figurehead that you can swap out and like weaponry that you can swap out the look?
I do care about making other players unhappy. Puts on his caravan.
Ships, because that presents a whole different type of user interface and flow that can be
so it sounds like no.
And
I mean that's fine. That's again that's going to be a niche system, probably not worth focusing a lot of investment on.
We're trying to stay away from that underdeck aspect.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
On deck.
Yeah, that's fair.
For better
I think that works. Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
No problem with that. That sounds good to me.
On the community side. And then we have OZ Jack, who wants to know about character progression. Is there going to be any form of dual specialization, allowing us to switch between 2 setups of skills, talents, augments, etc.?
Because it's going to make tanking and healing more accessible, which is important. Because if people can't switch between setups, who the fuck's going to be a tank or a healer out in the open world when they're doing shit? No, everyone's going to run DPS. Which means it's going to be harder and harder to find tanks and healers.
Yeah, that is a.
So being able to switch between roles is important.
Component, right? We're giving you the ability to respec, so why not also give you the ability to save specs? So that when you do respec,
is that something you can do on the fly, or is that something you got to go to a town, a specific NPC for, and you got to fuck around with that? Because again, that plays into the issue. Yeah, like Guild Wars 2 again does as well, because playing a healer or a support class out in the open world is fucking miserable. It is fucking horrible. Like, it's just the fucking worst. It slows down your efficiency, it slows down everything you can do to a crawl. It's just truly fucking awful. But Guild Wars 2 is like, okay, you can switch your shit on the fly when you need to support. Here, we got build templates and everything for you. Just hit a fucking button, boom, you're a healer now. It swaps your gear for you and everything. You're good to go. Go heal whatever the fuck it is you need to heal. Go do your support stuff. And when you're ready to get back to the open world, grinding it out, doing legendaries, farming and shit, hit a fucking button, boom, you're DPS again, go have fun. It's great. It works. Who the fuck is going to be a healer in this open game world? Just going through trying to farm a couple of fucking goat people for their hooves or whatever as a goddamn healer. Nobody. It's fucking awful. It's awful in World of Warcraft. It's awful in every game that's done it. It's fucking awful. If you're gonna have it, let people switch. On the fly, no big fucking deal. It's not a problem. Let people do it. If you're gonna have these Trinity specs, let people not suffer. On the fly role switching is huge and needs to be a thing. Or nobody's going to want to play healer or tank. You know?
Convenience option that will be available.
You can't, not being able to do it in combat obviously is important.
Easily done, because I know in the past we've said we don't want you to be able to just change on the fly.
No, let them change on the fly. No, that's a terrible philosophy that does nothing for anybody. If somebody's not in fucking combat, let them change. Have certain scenarios where you're locked in. Okay, there's a fucking castle siege or whatever. You're locked into whatever. That's fine. Whatever. Who cares? But like out in the open world, let them swap on the fly, please, dear God. It's the reason I never played a healer and I never played a tank in World of Warcraft, because I didn't want to fucking deal with it. Nobody wanted to deal with it. You know how fucking long it takes to find a healer and tank, even in auto-forming parties? You're in queue for a while. Like, nobody wants to play tank or healer because nobody wants to fucking deal with it in the rest of the game. It's awful. Don't. This is a mistake.
You'll need to be in town for the respec, right? And that's we're talking about secondary.
Disgusting.
Excuse me.
It's bad. That's not good. Hopefully they walk back that one. That's not good. Fuck that. No.
Those will need to be in town as well. So I won't be able to do it on the fly. You're not going to be.
So it's going to be hard to find healers and tanks for anything, is what I'm hearing.
Change. It's going to have to be something that you strategically have chosen due to what you know is ahead of you out in adventuring.
That's terrible. No, that's a terrible idea. Stop this. This is not good. Stop it.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify because it was a little different than what we said in the past. All right. And then Drunk Ninja wants to know about coastal nodes. Will nodes located on islands be easily accessible at the start of the game, or will it be
especially when the game is travel is a major element of the game and the world is big? Like, it's not like, all right, well, I'll just fucking use a waypoint, immediately get to the city, swap out, and then waypoint right back to where I was. Like, in Guild Wars 2, that system might work a bit because there's fucking waypoints everywhere. Like, going to one place, that's like a 30-second, minute and a half investment. All right, cool. I'll go swap, boom, I'm in town, boom, I'm back out. Waypoint was like a 30-second walk from where I was. Like, in a game like Guild Wars 2, that system could, but even Guild Wars 2 was like, fuck it. You want to switch on the fly? Here you go. Do it. We know this is good for the game. This is something people have wanted since the game came out. Here you go. Here it is. Like, this is just the optimal way to do it. This is the way where people will actually engage with these other systems and actually still have fun. Because nobody wants to be the healer trying to slowly grind their way through a fucking quest in the open world. Nobody. Not a goddamn soul.
underwater, you'll swim.
Oh, no, you can actually swim. To answer that question,
was that a stab at New World? You can actually swim. That was a jab at New World. New World, you still can't swim. It's probably one of its biggest glaring issues. It feels so fucking scuffed not being able to swim in an MMO with water where you can interact with the water. It is so scuffed. I really wish New World would fix that. It's so scuffed. It's a big detractment. Like, when people want to detract from the game, like haters, they're like, oh, you say the game's getting a lot better. Can I swim yet, bro? I can't even swim in a video game with water and shit. What kind of amateur hour crap is this? What do you mean you can't swim? It's so dumb. Game's trash. Dead game.
Same with all nodes, right?
And they're not
nodes that are going to be located.
And it's a valid criticism.
From the starting locations.
So you just,
some of those distances
New World's just feeding fuel to the hater fire
if it is a
by not having swimming. It's something that should have been fixed already. The game's been out a year.
That node's progression
like damn.
Than what might be located closer to the starting areas, then they'll have to incorporate strategies to direct player movement and heat into those areas so that they get a faster start than the nodes that might be located.
Oh, okay. The node. Okay, node heat. Okay. I get it. Okay.
And then Anarchs wants to know about stealth mechanics. Will it be possible for any player to hide their character's name and guild plate through the use of non-pay-to-win means? And just to reiterate to you guys, we have no plans of doing any pay-to-win things. Anything that is
nobody ever has plans until it happens, so we'll see about that.
Things that give you power or any benefit.
And sometimes even cosmetics can be like. Apex has a thing where some of the weapon skins give you really nice iron sights. Like, some of the weapons are pay to win in that you get really sweet fucking iron sights on some of those skins. Sure, it's not intended to be pay to win, and it's not like a snap bonus, but having that sweet reticle on that rifle before you manage to find it 4 times or whatever, that's fucking huge. Like, that's a massive early game advantage, especially if you're hot dropping. Like, yeah. Nobody sets out, well, except for Diablo Immortal. Nobody, and other mobile games, like 90% of them. But nobody else sets out to be pay to win. It just kind of happens over time, usually. So,
yeah, so
something to keep in mind.
To answer that question, there are some ideas that we have about disguises for characters that incorporate nameplates and guilds.
So Ultima Online did this back in the day with the disguise kit. It would change you to a randomized NPC character model, and it would change your name. Now, people knew, like, if they had the forensic evaluation skill leveled up, they could see through it, or it could at least tell, depending on the skill level versus your disguising level, they could tell that, oh, this person's disguised. Or if they were like fucking Grandmaster and the other person was only like 80, they could actually see through the disguise rather than just knowing it was a disguise.
So stay tuned for Alpha 2.
But if you didn't have any forensic evaluation skill and somebody had good disguise skill, like, it would just look like that's a different person.
When we have that live.
It didn't really have, like, unless you had a bad reputation and you just needed to hide it while going into, like, fucking brick bank to bank and shit, it didn't really have a whole lot of actual application out in the wild. But
class, will 2 identical ships have different speeds and turning abilities based on their pilot's level?
So, the benefits of having mariner expertise is not just related to activities you can do on the ships, but will also incorporate skills that become available when you're piloting ships as well. So there's a few things that Mariner classes provide. Interaction with attachments on the ship, driving the ship itself, utilizing the ship's components like furling the sails or not.
You can furl and unfurl quicker, probably. I mean, that makes sense.
When damage is taken, the speed at which you can do it, the health you regenerate when you do it.
Yeah,
those things all get
I mean, that
by
makes
your Mariner
sense.
class skill.
Nothing too crazy
the
there.
The more you interact with it, the more experience you gain, the better you'll become.
I think that's fine.
All right.
Yep.
And our last question is from Lashing about seasons. Are ocean and underwater areas going to have seasonal changes?
Ocean and underwater areas will not have seasonal changes.
Like, the impact on that would be pretty minor. Like, lakes or ponds would be the most, because you got that sheet of ice and then everything else. But at that point, the sheet of ice also allows the warmth in the water to collect and build. Like, it almost creates like a dome, so like the earthen heating keeps the water below from freezing. And it allows a lot of the fish to keep thriving and surviving. That's why fish don't all just fucking die off every time the water freezes. They may become a bit less active and things change up, and it, you know, some species can't survive it, and they just follow the fucking tributaries down to warmer waters for a while before coming back up. I think salmon are kind of like that, maybe. But yeah, like, it wouldn't have that much of an impact. Like, and they've already got the top of the water freezing over in like winter and whatnot as part of the season, so yeah, no, it doesn't make sense to really have the seasons affect underwater significantly in any major meaningful way. That's fine.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that, that is our final question from the forums. If you did not get your question answered here, it might be one that we already answered.
I think that's it. That's the video. I took an hour and a half video and turned it into 2.5 hours. Apparently, I had a lot to say on this one. Anyway, that's it. That's the September update for Ashes of Creation. I think it was overall pretty good. I like a lot of what I saw. I have some concerns about some other stuff, but we'll see where it goes. Content quality. Yeah. Well, I mean, when you're reacting to a video, so I don't do a lot of video reactions because I feel like it's kind of weird sometimes. Like, it needs to be something I can add to, really. Like, if I watch a 10-minute video and my reaction is 10 minutes, that means I didn't add anything to that video. Like, what was the point of me reacting to it, you know? So, like, if I'm going to watch a video on stream, I need to be able to add to it. I need to have some kind of insight or some way of interacting with it beyond just watching it and being like, no. Oh. You know, like, I need to be able to add value to the video, I feel. It doesn't have to be a lot. Like, if I'm watching a 10-minute video and there's 2 extra minutes on the end of it, I probably added some value to the video. But, like, I need to be able to add value to videos. Otherwise, it's just kind of weird. It's more like just a weird-ass little watch party. And I don't feel like that's terribly engaging content. So, the opposite of YouTube Shorts. Yeah, basically. It was very fun. So anyway, this gives me a chance to kind of talk about MMOs, talk about systems, talk about how players interact with the systems, talk about like the psychology of the systems and how players are going to realistically interact with it versus how the devs feel like they should interact with it on paper. What I like, what I don't like. We can talk to each other about what we like, what we don't like. We can have a discussion about it. So like this kind of video is easy for me to do because there's just plenty to talk about. I've been playing MMOs since MMOs came out. I've played almost everyone on the market, with the exception of some of the shitty, cheap, like, Korean ones that I'm just not interested in, because they all play the fucking same anyway. You played one, you've played them all. Anyway, yeah, like, I can talk about MMOs and how players interact with them, because I've got, like, fucking 20 years of experience. So, nerd, damn right. But anyway, tomorrow we'll get back to the spooky stuff. I plan on, in the afternoon, trying to finish up A Plague Tale, or at least getting the majority of it finished up. Afternoon, early evening, and then I might, since Overwatch 2, I believe, is coming out tomorrow night, or tomorrow afternoon, I might do a second stream later on in the evening where I stream some Overwatch 2 with some of my friends. So we'll see. Tomorrow, guaranteed Plague Tale, maybe something else after. Thanks for hanging out, everyone. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something about a promising new game coming up. Always happy to share it. I'm kind of honestly excited about Ashes of Creation. It's a ways off, but I'm a hopeless romantic when it comes to MMOs. So, you know, they got me hooked for right now. We'll see where it goes. But I will see you guys tomorrow. Stay safe out there. Enjoy the rest of your evenings. Catch you later.